What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a safe and awesome week. Before we get started on obviously what we're going to talk about, Reacher Season 2, got a package in today. I forgot to cut my. Oh, okay. There we go. There we go. Very well packed. This is from Third Eye Comics, I believe. Yeah, Third Eye Comics. Sean got us these. We have been collecting the absolutes. Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Superman, and I've been getting the cover A's and the foil logo covers, and Sean's just been kind of getting whatever cover grabs him. So, along with the foil logo covers. Again, like I said, this is Absolute Flash, and if you haven't read it yet, it's kind of divisive with some people apparently, but for me, hey, what's up, Triple B and Make Two? How we doing? But for me, it was a really good opening issue. Like lots of good setup, and there's a character in there, a couple characters actually, kind of like a team. That man, their designs and their outfits, awesome. Never seen them look more badass. Well, uh, you sit here and watch me fumble with this, but that's what happens when I don't open stuff up beforehand. Come on, I know, cut away from me, but oh my god, how many freaking gonna spend the whole show trying to get the boxes apart. All right, here we go. All right, looks like Sean and I actually got the same thing. So, the A cover, dig that a whole lot. Close that up. Then, as always, I've been loving every single one of them so far. There's that foil logo cover. Ooh, that's really. There we go. Yeah. Super dope. Like I said, I believe Sean got. If I don't drop his stuff everywhere. There we go. Yeah, Sean got the same thing. So. Yeah. If you haven't been reading these, man, you really should give them a shot. Uh, I'm probably going to get it mixed up, but what I've said before was it kind of feels like how Marvel has What If, and they also have the Ultimate Universe. Uh, DC has the Elseworld stuff, and now they have this, the Absolute stuff. So I I think the stories have been great so far. It's been 4 for 4 with me. I did get to read a little bit of the Martian Manhunter one. I think that one's going to be wild as well. I honestly think they're also making him a Cyclops, which is going to be kind of weird, but he is also a shapeshifter, so you never know. Little bit more, little housekeeping stuff. Not really. If you hadn't watched it, uh, Kyle had spliced or cut out the interview that we had a week ago with Jeff Johns on the FOC show. Put that on the experience. Make sure you watch it if you missed it. Jeff, man, Jeff really wanted to go in a lot more detail than he had time for, and that was awesome. Hopefully, we're going to have him back on the experience on one of the other shows. That'd be cool. Um, let's see what else. If you were somebody that was excited for the Valiant Free Comic Book Day book, unfortunately, I guess they had to pull out. Phrasing. Um, the Diamond thing kind of got to them too. They've I guess they've got a partnership with IDW to distribute now with the Alien Valiant thing. The only thing is that they're not going to make it for Free Comic Book Day. So if you were looking forward to that, unfortunately, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. Uh, Big rumor. It might just be April Fools. It's worked on me before. Uh, we might be getting something Superman related Tuesday, April 1st. Maybe. That's not confirmed or anything. There's just been rumors going around, and it's literally just like either a trailer or a 5 minute scene. It could be a hoax, could be something. I'm gonna keep my eye on it though. I know that eventually we're going to get something soon because Superman Day is coming up. So again, I'll keep my eye out for that. It's on a Tuesday. I do work that day, but if it's something they're doing live, I'll try to live stream it like I did the original trailer. Uh, so without further ado, though, folks, we're going to be talking about once again, and I wish I had a thunder sound to go with this. Reacher, season 2. Uh, Truth be told, I have watched this because I rewatched season 1, got through season 2, watched season 3. Season 3 is not going to be next week, but the week after, because the week after Sean will be back, and then we're going to talk about season 3. Next week will be a more comic related thing. Now, granted, in season 2 there is a comic thing that I'm going to ask about because I'm still having an issue with it. And I want to know why, but I'm going to ask that later. I'm going to bring on the folks I'm going to talk about this with. Um, this first guy, I'm going to go ahead and call him the resident Reacher expert. Now that doesn't mean he knows every single thing about Reacher, but he's resident as into the show, and he's the person I get that basically knows this character inside and out by now. He's watched the show more times than I think you're supposed to, but he has a good time with it. And he's watched it so much, he really should have been called Reacher Von Lee. Weird.
Hail Hydra!
What's going on, man?
Hey, Triple Bree, my haunted brother from a possessed mother. How you doing, man?
Come
Hey,
get
mate. What?
Triple E was asking if I got a haircut,
Oh,
and I was like, no, I had taken a shower and just combed it back.
you took a shower? I mean, never mind.
Yeah, well, shower thoughts, power shower.
Do what you gotta do.
So we got you in here, but we also got our good buddy. Nope. How's it going, boss?
What's up, Jay? Hey, Eddie.
Hey, something. Nope. Long time no see.
Right?
Well, Make, I'm gonna tell you this, Make too. If you're interested in watching it, whenever you get a chance, do it, man. It's so worth it. Each season to me gets better and better. So yeah, and I don't want to spoil you. I don't want to spoil you on anything because we are going to go through pretty much every I was going to say issue, every episode of this show. So I don't want you to get spoiled, and I won't take it personally if you're like, hey guys, I got to dip out so I don't get spoiled, or if you want to stick around anyway, by all means, But so I actually was going to rewatch this today, and ended up waking up late, had to cut my yard. By the time I ate and everything, I got through the first 2 episodes again. So, I'll tell you how episode 1 opens up. It's dark in the Catskills. Catskills? Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I either say Catskills or Catskills. Yeah, Randy, you're trying, man. You're just already trying to start a war.
Poking the beast.
Good to see you, man. Hey,
all I can say is, Randy, tell that to Alan Richardson. Just tell that to him.
Gotta say, wife and I watched Craven. We actually liked it. Just throwing that out there because I know he said he had taken his grandson. His grandson liked it. But so it opens up in the Catskills, and it's a helicopter, and we're kind of fixated on this helicopter. Oh, cool, awesome. And we get closer to it, and the helicopter kind of drops back like that. And when they do, a body drops out of this thing. We're following like the top view of this body. It's falling, smacks into this tree. Like I couldn't believe that nothing broke off when that happened. Smacks in the tree, hits the ground, helicopter flies off. We get a panning shot, or not panning. I can't remember. Zoom in. There you go. Of the body, get right in the face. Now, at this point, nobody knows who this character is. Then we get to Reacher in a thrift shop, and he's buying some clothes. I guess it's the stuff he's got on plus what he puts on the counter, I think, is what's going on.
Well, what he puts on the counter are the clothes he wore in, and he was
Hmm.
trading those in because he told her to wash them and resell them. And he had new clothes that he wanted to buy to wear because Reacher doesn't keep things.
Yeah, yeah. So
Except
you
his
know he
toothbrush.
Except his
exactly
toothbrush. But he got a new one. But
assholes
that
broke my
comes
tooth.
later.
Yeah. Um. So he's going to pay, and there's a sign behind him. And anybody who's worked in retail probably knows this. This probably happens to them every once in a while. Somebody was supposed to take a sign down that said 50% off. So the girl tells him, "No, somebody forgot to take down that sign." Like, well, why didn't you? Because it's not my job. So Reacher's like, "Well, there's an ATM across the street. Let me leave you my passport so you know I'm not going to run off with these clothes." And she basically is like, "I don't give a shit if you do." He goes, "Okay." So he doesn't put the passport down. I noticed that on my second watch through of the episode. And he walks across the street to this to the ATM. Well, there's this lady, and she's really shaky. Like you can see her hand shaking, and you start to notice there's a bruise on the side of her face, right here around the eye, and her hands, like her knuckles, are bloody. Reacher notices this and is like, "Hey,
Get it right.
don't 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 turn around, but uh,
Don't turn around. I can help you.
I can help you." There we go.
You've been carjacked, right? And then he looks over and sees that minivan. She's like, yes. And my
Yep.
kid's in the back seat. And he says, wait here.
Gun,
It won't take long.
gun, yeah. So he starts walking up there, and you know, there's something about the scene that was like, bro, you're trying to rob this woman who's very far away. I understand you have her kid, but I would be personally, I'd be staring out that window watching her and not worried about the kid yelling in the back seat. But that's just me. But he's yelling at the kid, and Reacher just takes off his jacket, busts through the window, smashes the gun, gets the gun out of the hand, pulls the dude out the window. Or no, he pulls him out the door a little bit and like kicks the door into him a couple times. Guy's taken out, opens the door, the little kid's crying, and he's like, "Hi, you want to see your mom?" And like just steps out of the way and hands the woman the gun and is like, go to the bank, use their phone, call the cops, give them this gun or give them this. She's walking away. He's like, what's your name? And he's like, or what, he says something, but something
Who are
along,
you?
who are
Who
you?
are
There you
you?
go. And he's like, somebody who doesn't want to get involved. But that's the thing about Reacher that I really like before we go on with the episode. Reacher may not want to get involved, but he also can't let bad things happen either. Like he's not a person that's going to be that, well, it's none of my business. Let me turn, let me turn a blind eye to this. He's the person. And in season 3, they explain it the best way. Like at the end in that finale with Neely, they explain it to me, and I finally kind of get what Reacher's about. But we'll talk about that in a couple weeks. Um, so he goes back in, or no, he goes back to the ATM, and he's got a message, and the message is 110 100
10:30.
1030.
110, 10:30. Yep.
He goes back into the thrift shop, borrows the phone from the person in the thrift shop, and calls, and it's Neely. And I can't remember. She says something about the name.
Franz has been murdered.
No, well, I mean before that, she says something. It was
Oh,
funny
the
about the
woman on the phone? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It just says she sees the name. She says bank teller, waitress, or thrift shop worker. He's
Third
like
one.
the third one. Yeah. So Ed, why don't you pick it up, man? Pick it up
Sure.
from there.
So she tells him on the phone that Franz has been murdered. And we're not sure who Franz is yet, but she says, um, he said, yeah, I got your message. It said 101 10:30, and 101 was the name of their group, the 101 Special Investigators, and 10:30 was a distress call. And she tells him Franz has been killed. and that she deposited enough money for him to fly to New York. And he just basically looks at the camera and says, "I'll tell you when I land." So then we have our first flashback where we meet the 110. And it starts with Reacher and Franz walking down the hall, and you could tell that Franz was enamored with Reacher, that he had like some hero worship going on, and he was trying to find out from Reacher, and he's like, "Well, what's going on, Major?" And Reacher does his famous, "It's just Reacher, just call me Reacher." So then we meet all of the members of the 110, and I'm probably going to forget somebody, but there was Lowry, who was an older guy that was a 6-time marksman champion, and Reacher says that one of his slogans, he's like, "I got a rule. When a fight goes bad and the shots are fired, the first shot better be your best shot." So that's why he wanted him on the team. And then there's Dixon, who is the love interest of the season, and she's like a savant with numbers. She does like accounting and stuff, and then of course we had oh geez, Eddie, come on, Neely, who we already know, Neely. And then they introduce us to these two guys, Sanchez and Orozco. And Orozco, you don't know why yet, but he has his last name tattooed on the back of his back, and he's wearing a tank top, and you can see his name. And then we see O'Donnell, who is like a big womanizer, and he's really good with knives, and he claims to be good with guns, but that becomes a running joke throughout the season. So, and I believe the last one is Swan. And Swan likes to play the guitar. And what's his rule? Nope. About playing the guitar.
Was it no Zeppelin, no Hendrix, no Skinner, and no Who?
There you go.
I
You
like
got
my
it.
stuff light.
Yup. He likes his stuff light. So we get our first meeting with them, and there's a little bit of banter, but nothing important yet. It's just them assembling the team, and he tells them that they've been put together to be the special investigators for when stuff comes up. And then we flash forward back again with Reacher and Neely at the coffee shop, where he's finally in town, and she hands him the murder file on Franz. And of course, Reacher looks at it, and he immediately is like, "Well, he didn't fall out of an airplane, because if he fell out of an airplane, da 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 da, it had to be a helicopter. And he was tortured ahead of a time, because I can tell by these pictures that his leg were broken before he fell." Typical Reacher stuff. He knows all this stuff. And Neely asks, "So what's our next move?" And he says, "Do you really want the police to be involved in our friend's execution?" Of course not. So from there, they decide to go and talk to Franz's widow, because Franz had gotten married and had a kid. But while they're leaving, Reacher notices a black sedan parked out front, but he doesn't say anything. He just looks at it suspiciously. And then they zoom in on the black sedan, and there's a bald guy in there, and he's got a notepad, and it's got all the names of the 110 on it. And he checks off Neely's name, and he checks off Reacher's name. And so you're kind of wondering what's going on with that. And then they flash to another guy in another car, and this guy looks a little more, evil than the first guy did, I guess. But maybe I'm just saying that because I've watched it more than once. But he immediately like calls someone and says, "She just met the big guy," and that's all you hear. And they leave it at that. So on the way, Neely and Reacher are trying to get a hold of O'Donnell, and he's the one that's the womanizer that is good with knives. But nobody's answering their phone, and they left him a message to call him back. So when Reacher and Neely finally get to Franz's widow's house, her son was watching this really cringy, "I want a banana. I want a banana." I
You
don't
don't have any
understand that.
bananas.
But the banana thing was just hilarious. So anyway, the mom tells him to go and draw or color or something in the kitchen, and Reacher asks her to walk them through the details of how Franz disappeared. And she lets him know that Franz had been a private investigator, and in the past he had been doing dangerous jobs, but he had promised her that he had stopped doing it. but she came home and found that her home was ransacked and Franz was gone. So obviously, she doesn't believe that he had quit doing the dangerous jobs. And while they're talking, the kid in the other room all of a sudden just says, for no reason, "You do not mess with the special investigators." And that makes Reacher and Neely look at each other and look at the kid. And Neely gets up and walks over to the kid and she's like, "Did your dad teach you that?" And the kid just kind of nods his head. And this was supposed to be a heartfelt moment, but it was also kind of a cringe moment because the kid they got to act
Wasn't
didn't
looking at
act
it.
at all.
Yeah,
He never even looked up. He was like completely ignoring her while she tells this whole story about the reason that Reacher picked her dad because his dad wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he had stopped two guys from fighting over a cookie and was able to calm down a situation. And she goes into all this detail. Kid never even looks at her. It's so
yeah.
cringe because she's trying to be, and he's just like color
That's
and color.
that's why he was our friend. And I
Yeah.
was like, because that scene, watching it again, I got the same feeling. I was like, bro, you're not even. He's not even looking. He's not even looking at her. He's just sitting there coloring. But also, before we got to that, they're discussing things in the diner, and there's a lot that Reacher didn't know. Because nobody could ever really contact him. You find out that Lowry died in a car crash,
Yep.
and for some reason, the first go round, I didn't catch that they said that. So there was
Me
part
neither.
of me, yeah, there was part of me thinking that, okay, it's going to be the tropey thing where there's somebody on the team as a part of this, and we find that out later. When we get to it, you'll start thinking about stuff like that too. But I was like, man, they're going to use the tropey part of the team, blah blah blah, and I thought maybe him being the oldest, he might have been one. And then watching it again, I was like, dummy, they said he died first. He died in a car crash. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, or cross him off the list. But so they that's when after they get done talking with the kid and they've already gotten the keys to his office, to Franz's office.
Mm-hmm.
They go there.
Don't skip this
Oh,
part.
see,
But
skipping.
before they get there, the one guy in the sedan, not the bald guy, the other one, we find out his name is Seropian, and he's on the phone with his boss,
Oh,
and he was like, he's been following him, and Langston, who ends up being the leader, asked him if he was able to talk to the manager of the hotel that Reacher had checked into. And he's like, no, but he paid off a concierge and he let him know that Neely checked in under the hotel under the name of Sarah Connor. Now, this is funny because the leader, Langston, is none other than Robert Patrick, who played the T 1000 in the Terminator 2. And Seropian asks Langston, "Who's Sarah Connor?" And he says, "I don't give a shit about Sarah Connor." And it was just so funny because that was such an homage to Terminator. But go ahead, you can go on now.
okay. Yeah, well, yeah. Again, that's why it's good to have Ed here because Ed can timeline this stuff. I'm like, hey, this is what happened. No, that was like 4 episodes from now. Um, so we
You're
get
good, brother.
we get to his office, and the thing is just ransacked. So much so that they start realizing, and I think it's Neely that figures it out first, that what they're looking for. This is on Amazon Prime, make two, so you can watch this, and you can watch Invincible. Just throwing that out there. Uh, but Neely notices that they even broke chair legs, and she's like, you know, it's got to be something small because you're not going to be breaking open chair legs unless you're thinking it's going to be something that's going to fit in there. So hold on.
She looks out the window and notices a post
Yes, the
office.
post office.
And
That's
she's
what I
like,
was trying to
"Reacher,
remember.
can I see the keys?" And he tossed her the keys to the office, and there was a post office key. And she says something to the effect, "If you were trying to hide something, you'd want to keep it local and safe. Where could you do that?" And Reacher looks at her like, "I don't know." And she shows him the key and points at the window, and he's like, have I ever told you you're smart, Neely? And she goes, not nearly
Nearly
enough.
enough.
And that becomes the running thing for this whole season. So go ahead, Jay.
Yeah. So they get across the street to the post office, and it's closed, and you need a code to get in. And this is when Reacher goes, "Good, because I hate trying to guess codes.
I hate
I
passwords.
hate hate trying to guess passwords." Um. So I think this is the time that they go back to the hotel.
Yep, and start playing gin.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to remember. Is it another flashback when this happens?
There's a flashback after they're playing gin. Her and him are like, what are we going to do to kill time now until the post office opens tomorrow? And it shows him playing gin, and Neely says gin again, and Reacher throws his hand down. He's like, I don't even know why I play with you. And she's like, well, we got to do something. And he's like, oh, I want a couple of hands. And she kind of smiles. And he's like, if you let me win, I'm going to be so pissed. And she says, I don't let you win. I just pace myself, boss. So basically, she let him win. And then they do the flashback to the gang in the bar.
Right, because when we first meet him, he makes sure he tells everybody just Reacher, not Sir, not Major, just Reacher. So he asks him. He goes, "Well, first of all, get all these desks moved," and everybody just sits there. And he goes, "Look, I don't expect you to call me Major, but I do expect you to move your ass when I tell you to." So Franz had come up to him and been like, "Do you really think these people could work together as a team?" Well, when we get to the bar scene, he had he had told Franz, "I need a drink. Tell everybody I'm buying." They end up at this officers club in this flashback. Now, apparently, and I don't know too much about military rules. It's only for it's not for enlisted people.
It was an officer's pub, is what it's called, where
Okay.
only officers can go to drink. And you know how I know that? MASH.
Oh,
Your wife's favorite. Do, do, do,
oh
do,
God.
do, do. Yeah, that.
Yeah. Okay.
Officers' pub, so only officers were allowed in there, and she was wearing her sergeant stripes.
Yep. And so they got the team there. It's pretty much everybody's silent, you know, and
They're getting to know each other.
they're getting to know each other, but it's kind of one of those. It's like an awkward first date almost, you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
So this big dude comes up to them, and he's looking at Neely, and he goes, "She's not supposed to be. You're not supposed to be drinking in uniform at first, right?"
Yep. Yeah, you're not supposed to be drinking in uniform. He's like, well, we're not drinking. We were drinking, but then you just interrupted us.
Yeah.
And then Neely's says something like, well, let me just finish and I'll leave. And the guy says, you be quiet. Adults are talking. And then he says, she's not even supposed to be in here because she's not a sergeant and then, or not an officer. And that's when Reacher gives his second law about, I got a rule. People leave me alone, my friends alone. I leave them alone. They don't. I don't. And the guy gives him some more smack and he stands up and he's like, I told my mama that I would give dumb guys like you a chance. So I'm going to give you a chance to walk out now. And the guy's like, we got 12, you got 9. And Reacher smiles. Well, that's a shame. You're about 3 short. And the next thing you see is this guy go flying through the window. Reacher jumps out after him and just starts beating the hell out of him on the
Yeah.
sidewalk.
You get another set of them coming through the door, and
Yep.
with the door open, you see the whole team is fighting. And while they're doing this, you hear somebody. It's not Elton John, but you hear a cover of "Saturday Night's All Right." I can't ever remember the
Yeah.
name of
Yeah.
the song.
Yeah.
Somebody's singing that song, and it ends up being Swan, the guitarist. Because then we go to a campfire.
Yep.
These folks have bonded. They bonded over fighting and protecting each other. So you have I can't remember if it's Neely that walks up to Reacher first or
Yep. Neely walks
Neely.
up first and was bringing him a fresh beer because she noticed he had set his down because it had got warm. And she's like, would you like a fresh one, boss? And he's like, yeah. And she was like, this whole thing tonight, you kind of set this up. And he just kind of looked at her and she's like, you and I are going to be friends, aren't we? And Reacher kind of smiles and says, we already are, Neely. And
Yeah,
that was kind of a moment because that's when you know that Neely and him finally clicked. But go
Yeah,
ahead, you can
it,
finish now.
well, it's one of those relationship with them. What I like so much is it's no kind of sexual thing at all.
Nope.
I've never, with the two of them on screen, have never felt anything but like brother and sisterly love. Like there's never been any kind of weird sexual tension with them,
Nope.
and I like that. I mean, Reacher's gonna smash a chick every season anyway, so let him have his friend, that the one that he can really like. He can really rely on her because it feels like Neely's there whenever Reacher needs her.
There's something to that we're gonna find out later on too, because she always says that she won't let anybody touch her.
Hmm.
And if somebody touches her, she breaks their wrists. Don't touch me, and just goes. So there's been something in her past
Yeah,
that I'm sure we'll get to learn on the Neely spinoff show that's coming this fall.
which is so well
Oh,
deserved because
yes,
Neely is such an awesome character.
Is there any
absolutely.
Really,
previews out for that yet?
The only thing I saw was a teaser trailer type TikTok from Richson,
Mm,
and he was doing like a selfie, and he's like, "Look where I am. I
on
don't know what
set.
could be going on." And then Neely comes in. "Oh look, it's my friend Neely. Oh look, it's the rest of the cats of Reacher. What are we all doing here? It's not like we're making a movie." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, we're cutting the premiere for your own series." And she's like, "You're not supposed to tell them that." And they start laughing, and he turns off the camera. That's all I've seen. It's kind of like a little teaser trailer, but it was enough to get me excited.
Right.
can't wait though. It's probably gonna be another year or so before. I
I'm
know that
hoping it's this fall,
that'd be that'd be awesome.
because then we could have Reacher in spring and Neely in fall, and it would almost be like Reacher 2.5 or something.
I said the same thing when they started doing Shorzy.
Yeah.
Like you can watch Letterkenny, and once Letterkenny's over, we got a season of Shorzy to watch. I'm, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome if they did that. But we also learned, and y'all will notice throughout this thing that I might get Dixon and Swan mixed up. That's only because the actress's name who plays Dixon is Surrenda Swan. I found myself doing that when I was watching it earlier. Um, we kind of find out she's got a little bit of a thing. Like you could feel that's where you could feel the tension. Like when she walks up to him at their little bonfire they're doing.
Yeah.
But
You're talking Dixon, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dixon.
What's mine is yours, boss.
Yeah, yeah. It's just Reacher is he's a man that has a lot of principles. Like he may not have a lot of possessions or anything like that, but he's got principles that are like I'm your superior. This can't happen. No matter how much he probably would like it to happen, he's just like at that time, he's like we got to keep this kind of buddy buddy. And that's kind of almost where that scene ends until they decide first day as a squad, we're going to take a picture.
Yep.
And Lowry gets his camera out, sets it up, and Reacher at first is like, I can just take the picture. Like, no, no, no. I got it. You get in the picture. So they set it up. He Lowry runs back over there, and o- O'Donnell says something of like, you know, something about osteoporosis to him. He made an old joke at him, and they kind of banter before the picture goes off, and it's at that point where you're like, the this is a team. This is a
Yep.
squad. This is a team. These people are gonna be there for each other. They're bonded now. Then we get back
Friends.
to
No, Friends walks up to
oh
Reacher
yeah,
to talk to him,
yeah, it's
and they're talking, and then all of a sudden Franz turns into this bloodied,
yeah,
broken thing, and he's like, "They tossed me from a helicopter, Reacher. What are you gonna do about it?" And Reacher like wakes up. So that flashback was kind of like Reacher having a nightmare about getting revenge on the people that killed Franz. And then they go back to the other part.
okay. Because I'm trying to remember. It is in the first episode where they go back to the hotel, and their hotel has been broken into and ransacked, and they see someone. Reacher goes to fight this dude.
Well, you're yeah, you're skipping a lot, but
Right,
go
yeah.
ahead. Because first they flashed to the dude in the suit at the L.A. airport, and that's the comic book thing you wanted to talk
There
about.
we go. Because here's my question. So this guy's reading the comic book. Yeah, that's right. Like I said, I just watched this today too.
You're
Um,
okay, man.
like I said, that's what Ed's here for. Keep me on track. So he's reading this comic book. First of all, I don't know if this comic book is even real, but he's reading one while he's getting his passport stamped. I noticed something this time though. There wasn't. You're going to notice this comic book thing with him, but there wasn't a kid there this time, so he just throws the comic book away. That was interesting to me. That raises more questions about why does he randomly give the comic books to kids? Because we see the comic book thing a couple of times, but this time I was like, okay, there's no kids around him, so he just throws it away.
Well, the first time there was actually a kid. It was the little boy. And he goes over and kneels in front of the little boy, and he goes, "Would you like this?" Because the boy was looking at him. And the boy nods his head, and he says, "Do you know why I like comics?" And the boy shakes his head. He goes, "Because the good guy always wins." And he hands him the comic and walks away. It's when he gets to the other airport when he just throws it away because he knows the cops are around him. But that's a little bit later on.
Well, see, I remember he does this before he burns his passport in the bathroom. He throws the comic book away.
Okay.
Like he's at the counter with the guy asking him if he has anything to declare,
Yep.
and he says no. Gets his passport stamped. He's walking towards the bathroom. He throws the comic away, gets into the stall. Because my next question is, what is up with everybody burning passports in bathrooms? How does that not smoke the bathroom out?
Smoking in the boys' room.
Okay. Okay.
I just love that everything in the show, that's the one thing that's boggled your mind.
It really has. Because they never explain it.
I asked that too. Like, how is that not setting off some sort of thing? Because there's so much safety stuff all around airports. And there's going to be sprinklers in the bathroom, so no one starts a fire in the bathroom.
He wasn't smoking the passport, he was vaping it.
Jesus, come on. Well, yeah, it's the scene after that, and when he's at the next airport where he meets the boy for the first time, because the one after that is when he meets the little girl.
Yep.
So it was like, okay, so there weren't any kids around, so he just throws the comic book away that time. But what was the significance of getting, like, that was something that I was like, I know that's a stupid little thing to wonder about, but I'm like, is there a significance to that? Like, what? But I guess it was just a throwaway thing that they did. It was just weird because I was like, okay.
Yeah, because as far as I know, there are no comics of Reacher.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why they went the comic route either, other than to try to tell you that he's like a, I don't know what they were trying to get at with that, because I wondered about that too. I mean, why? Because every time he met somebody, he had a comic book, and it's like, why? And I don't know if we ever got to see the title of the comic book. I never paid that close of attention, but I don't think it was a real comic. I think it was just something for the show. But then they flash back to the post office again.
That's right.
The next morning.
That's where they needed a distraction.
Yep.
And Neely goes in there, calls herself some kind of stamp enthusiast. I can't even remember the word, but it's a very fancy, like $20 word she used. And she gets the old guy behind the counter to start pulling stamps out for her. And she's doing this so Reacher can try, because it's a little suspicious if you go to a mailroom and you're trying every single box with a key. People might think, hey, that's not that person's box. Now, the thing that I loved most about this scene was there was actually a lady there that was saying that. It wasn't just Neely's got it covered and we're just watching Reacher trying to open all these boxes. He's actually basically caught by this older woman. And she keeps trying to get the guy at the counter, and Neely just keeps, distracting him. And then finally he's like, "Sir, is that your?" And he finds the right one right when he says that.
But the best part was Reacher looks at her. He's, "What are you, the post office police?"
Yeah. Yeah. So
Feel free to jump in. Nope.
I can sit here with some popcorn.
Oh, that sounds good. I'll be right back. No,
Yeah.
Right.
So they get in the car and they start looking through the mail, and it's Bill, solicitor, and then they find this little envelope. Like, this is what it is, and it's a USB. Well, Neely goes to put it into her laptop, and she's like, "Oh, I don't have the port for this. I'm gonna have to get an adapter." Which is very good that that ends up being the case, and you find out once they get back to the hotel room. So I can't remember if that happens in the next
while
episode.
well, no, while she's doing that, she says, "I'm gonna have to go get an adapter." Reacher says, "All right, well, while you do that, I need to get a gun." And she's like, "A gun?" He's like, "Yep, but first I got to go to church." And she
Hmm.
looks at him like, "What?" So then he strolls into the church, and the priest in there is, "Can I help you?" And he gives this story. I think he said his cousin or his
Yeah,
brother or something is on drugs and living in the streets or something, and he wants to try to get him some help. And the priest is like, "Well, that's what we're here for." And he's like, "Well, do you know where something like that might happen, Father?" And the priest gives him a location. He's like, "Oh yeah, the biggest drug problem around here is on so and so street," but I don't remember what street he says. Believe it or not, I don't remember the street name. I'm not that big of a nerd. I know. Damn me to hell for forgetting the street. So anyway, the priest gives him a location, and he says, "But that's suicide. You be trouble." And Reacher turns around and smiles at the priest, and he says, "It's all right, Father. I got righteousness on my side."
yeah.
So then Reacher finds the street. You want to take over? Go ahead. I'll let you.
There's a guy on an old couch, just couch on the street, and he's sitting down. He's got another guy that just handed him money, and the guy's like, "Man, I need another hit. Can I get this? And I'll pay you back later." And he's like, "Dude, this ain't no furniture layaway. Get out of here." So he leaves, and he's got his number one standing to the left of him. And Reacher's watching this from Neely's car. He got Neely to, he's like, "What did he say? Use one of those phone apps and order you a car."
Yeah,
I think is what he says.
yeah.
So he's in Neely's vehicle, and he peels out towards these guys. And the one who's like, "Who's this fool?" And he gets super close to the couch. The number one jumps over the couch. The dude that was sitting on the couch gets off, and Reacher opens the door and hits him with the gun.
Smokes him with that door.
He's just flying so good. Then the number one starts walking up to him, and Reacher just reaches him, just like takes him down, dude. Like it's not even fair. The other dude's sitting there bleeding on the ground, and Reacher walks up to him, just puts that big old size 14 probably boot in his side, rolls him over. He took drugs from number one, and the main guy, he takes the wad of cash, and then he throws the drugs perfectly, I might add. There's a sewer grate or something a little bit of ways, and he
Yep.
throws all those drugs from where he's standing into that grate.
And
Takes the
he
money.
scores every one of them in the hole, just like a
Yeah,
pro.
yeah, but also takes his gun. Takes his gun as well.
Yep.
So he goes, "I'm taking your money, taking your drugs, I'm taking your gun." Goes back to the church, donates the money to the church.
Yeah, he hands over this just big roll of hundreds, and he hands it to the priest and says, "Give this to your outreach program, Father." And the priest is like, "Bless you, my son." And then we're back in L.A. again as that guy is trying to get a new passport.
Okay, so
Uh-huh.
that's
He
the one where
meets
he
the
With the
guys in the
bonds.
woods. Yep.
they
With the
Yep.
what kind of bonds were they called?
Bearer bonds.
Bearer
If
bonds.
you bear the bond, you own the bond.
Right.
Yep. And he gets the new passport, and then he kills the dudes.
yeah, because
He's
they're
like the
like,
guy that made the passports. No one's gonna recognize you. No one's gonna know it's you. This is top of the line. And he's like, well, someone will know. And he like sticks the guy in the throat with a knife, and then slashes the other guy and kills them both, and takes the passport and the bearer bonds.
yeah,
And then it goes back to Reacher and Neely getting back to the hotel and finding their room trashed.
find the room trashed. There's somebody there in the room, though.
Just like what happened at Franz's office. It was trashed the same way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so Reacher, like this dude takes a swing at Reacher. Reacher blocks it, turns around, gets him up against the door jamb, I think, pulls a gun on him. You find out it's O'Donnell.
Yep.
And O'Donnell's like, well, or Reacher's like, well, I see you're still using the brass knuckles, but no more knives. And they kind of pan down to Reacher's crotch, and you hear flick, and he's got his switch like right at crotch level.
At Reacher Jr.
Yeah. So this is when we learned that Mr. Womanizer, the only woman that's ever going to call me daddy is who I sleep with, has basically been domesticated, as Reacher calls him. He's married. He was on a family trip. There was like no screens, no electronics.
They were off the grid.
They were off grid, and he's like, "It's great, except for by day 3, my devil children are trying to kill each other." So he ended up getting home and checked his messages, and that's when he heard the news.
Yep.
Um,
So then they try to hack the flash code, the flash drive.
Then they put the flash drive in, and Neely's like, "We got a problem." The drive, he was so smart that the drive was set for 3 minutes,
a 2-minute countdown.
2-minute countdown with 3 guesses to the password.
Yep.
And if you guessed it wrong or time ran out, the drive would.
And what does Reacher say? God, I hate guessing passwords. So they start talking about all the things that Franz loved, and they're tossing out baseball players' names, and they try that, and they try the Pittsburgh. They try Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh was his favorite city or something, and they only got one guess left. And then O'Donnell shakes his head, and he's like, "This can't be happening." And he's like, "Who's the one thing and the one thing that Franz admired over everything else?" And Reacher and Neely are like, "What?" And he bends over and he types Reacher's name. And Reacher looks at him and says, "Get the hell out of here. It's not going to be that." And the clock is winding down, 3, 2, 1. He's like, "You better try it." And Neely hits enter and it opens up. So he had admired Reacher so much that Reacher was his password. And Reacher had this very humbled looking face when that happened. And O'Donnell, without missing a beat, looks at him and says, "Don't let your head swell, big guy."
Yeah. The first guest was a name I hadn't heard in a long time, because I remember this baseball player, Roberto Clemente. He was a baseball player who died in a plane crash taking supplies to earthquake victims way back in the day. I used to have his MVP card as a kid. Never a baseball fan, but I just thought that was a cool thing. So we got it unlocked, and they
print it off.
They print it off. Now there's two separate lists.
Yep.
One of the lists is a list of names. All the initials are AM.
AM.
Okay. And the other one is just like random numbers.
They're fractions. They're all fractions on like 7 different pages, and no one knows what the fractions mean at this point. And when they noticed AM, Reacher's like, "Those are aliases." He keeps them AM so he can do the same signature. All you got to do is make an A and an M and scribble, and nobody can tie it to anyone. And they briefly show you the list, and on the list, one of them was Andrew McBride. And then they flash to that dressed up dude again, booking a flight to Denver, and he's booking it under the name Andrew McBride. And I think this is where he gives the kid the comic book.
Did we miss the part where they come out of the building, Reacher and Neely, and he noticed the sedan, and then he walked up to it, and they had their first interaction?
We mentioned the sedan, but do they have their first interaction in the first episode, or was that the second? I can't remember.
I thought it was the second. Jay, you're muted, I think.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was the second episode where we meet him.
Because
they just keep noticing the black sedan.
Because at the end,
what happens at the end of this one is where they break into Swan's house, and they find the dog dead. And Reacher's like, Swan's dead. And they're like, you don't know that. And he's like, Swan would never let his dog die of dehydration. He's dead. And he turns his back and he finds that photo that Jay mentioned that they took at the fire in a frame on Swan's desk. And he picks it up and looks at it. And Neely and O'Donnell are like, so what's the next steps, boss? What do you think? What's happening? And Reacher turns and he goes, I'm thinking there's someone hell bent on taking out the special investigators, and they're coming for us next. And he looks right in the camera. Good.
Yeah,
End of
yeah.
episode 1.
Like the very next episode,
It
I
starts
believe
with them at the house.
it starts with them when they're leaving the house and they're trying to call Orozco and Dixon, and who's the other?
Sanchez.
Sanchez.
Yep.
So
And
they're
that and
yeah,
that's when he notices the black car again.
he knows
Okay.
it's the black car, and he's like, "I'm gonna go introduce myself." And he's walking up, and it's the bald headed guy taking the
Yeah.
notes that we saw. And
And
this
and
dude's like,
what the fuck is this guy gonna do?
"What are you doing?" He walks up, kicks the front
Kicks
of the car,
shit out of it.
God, and the airbag just goes off in the dude's like. He's
Yeah.
like, "You broke my nose," and he just punches him again. Like he
And
basically
he
knocks,
reaches his into his vest.
yeah, he reaches
And
into his
Reacher
vest.
just beats the hell out of him
Yeah.
after that because Neely yells gun.
Yeah.
And he falls to the floor. And O'Donnell's like, nice work, big man. He's like, yeah, just like the good old days. I do all the work and you stand and watch. And then Neely is searching through the pocket for the gun, and the gun was a New York City Police Department badge. It wasn't a gun. He was actually a detective. And Reacher's like, oh shit, it was a cop. And he looks over at O'Donnell, and O'Donnell's like, don't look at me. You did all the work. I was just watching. But
So after that, they're
they get the hell out of there.
yeah, they get out of there, and trying to remember what exactly.
They decided to go to Atlantic City, where Sanchez and Roscoe's office were, to see if they can find any evidence because they wanted to get the hell out of New York
Yep.
before they all got arrested for beating up a cop.
And they were going to have to ditch the car because it was a little too flashy.
You know, and then we get another phone call from Langston to that Seropian guy, and he tells them that what happened with Russo, and Langston was like, well, how did he beat up the cop? And he's like, he didn't. He kicked the car. And he goes, well, if all he did was kick the car, how'd the airbag go off? And he's like, you don't understand. This son of a bitch kicked the car and the airbag went off. So when it comes down to me and him, I'm going to need backups. And Langston's like, you'll get all the backup you need. What's going on? And he's like, they're on their way to Atlantic City. And he's like, good. They'll all be in the same place and we'll get them there. So then they have to ditch the car because Russo knows the car. So they go to a garage where they were going to steal a car. And while they were attempting to steal a car, Reacher looks over at the rental line and he recognizes Dixon from behind. So obviously he knew her behind well. He had looked at it once or twice before. And we're introduced to a Dixon in the present timeline instead of a flashback. And all he does is walk up behind her and he's like, what does he say? Undercover assignment? And she smiles and she's like, Reacher, how you doing? How'd you know it was me? He's like, well, we've been trying to get you and you wouldn't answer, so I knew you were under assignment. He goes through this big long thing and she goes, yep, that's Reacher. So then he turns around and walks away and he's like, don't forget. And she's like, yeah, get an SUV because you're too damn big for a car. So she rents an SUV and they start their trip to Atlantic City to talk to Sanchez and Orozco. You got it from here, Jay, or you want me to keep babbling?
Yeah, you keep babbling because I can't get the timelines right.
No big deal. So they have another flashback, and it was talking about the missing aviators and from Afghanistan. and it's just Reacher and Dixon, and this is where it shows you the chemistry between the two, because Dixon was trying to find a case, and she had noticed that there was something wrong in the numbers, that even though there were less vehicles on the planes were burning the same amount of fuel. And they came up with the idea that somebody must be smuggling something in the Jeeps or the SUVs. And Reacher was like, "Congratulations, Dixon, you just found a case worth investigating." And she was like, "Well, why don't we go celebrate?" And he's like, "That wouldn't be appropriate. I'm your commanding officer." So then it flashes back to Atlantic City with Dixon looking into the case file and looking at the numbers and going through the flags. And they figured out that somebody had some kind of a grudge against the 110, but they have no idea who yet. So then we get another call from Langston, and he tells him to get to Atlantic City and take him out. And he reminds him, don't forget the help that you promised. So when they get to Atlantic City, they go to Orozco and Sanchez's office. Apparently, they were uh, working together. As they don't really explain that, but I just kind of assumed they were working together. And their office was ransacked. And Neely finds Orozco's lucky lighter on the ground, and she picks it up. She's like, "Have any of you guys ever known Orozco to go anywhere without his lighter?" And that's when they know that something bad has happened there too. So for some reason, I don't remember why. He sees a picture frame, and in the
Mhm.
picture frame, he sees Sanchez with a woman, and in the background was a Lucky Lounge bar sign. And he's like, "How many pictures do you guys own that are framed?" And they're like, "Well, just the one." He's like, "Right, you don't put them in a frame unless they're important. So this woman's important. So we're going to go to the Lucky Lounge and talk to this woman." So do you get where we are now?
Yeah, that just it reminded me though that Reacher's like, "Am I the only one who doesn't have this picture?"
Oh, yeah.
It's like you
And
got to have,
they're kind of hard to have a picture without a wall, Reacher.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they get to the lucky lounge, and they get out of the car, and Reacher tells Dixon and O'Donnell to stay there
Because they look like
because they look
cops.
like cops. Like, well, what do you guys look like? And he's like Lady and the Tramp.
That was great.
So they walk in, and they go up to the bartender and like, have you seen this
Like,
woman?
yep,
We're
they had
friends
her
of,
picture.
yeah, we're friends of Jorge Sanchez, and he says something to, I think, Durrell, or I can't remember the guy's
Yeah,
name.
I think it was Daryl.
He
Take
says something to another guy.
take him back to the office, and I'll
Maria
see if we can.
Maria is the
Maria.
woman's name. She's doing the books.
Yep.
So he walks them back there. Well, right when they're kind of out of earshot, I guess Maria comes in, or she was
No,
already. That's what I
she
think.
was in the bathroom,
She was in the
and
bathroom. There
she
you go.
comes out to the bar, and he's like, "Here, take this money, take my keys, get the hell out of here. They're back," and we don't know who "they're back" means.
Yeah,
So she takes off running out the front door and runs right past O'Donnell and Dixon. And O'Donnell's like, "Isn't that the girl from the photo?" And Dixon's like, "Oh shit," and goes running off after him.
yeah,
So the guys that they told Reacher to take Reacher and Neely back to the office to meet her stop in the hallway, and they're like, "This is as far as we're going." And Reacher's like, What's going?" And Neely's like, "What's going on, fellas?" And he's like, "You guys got to quit harassing our friends." And Reacher's like, "No one's harassing it." And the guy takes a swing at Reacher, and it's the biggest regret the man's ever had, because Reacher beats the holy hell out of him, throws him through a door, kicks him over a dumpster, and the guy's like, "I've had enough, I've had enough." And just then, O'Donnell walks around the corner, looks down, he goes, "Making friends again, big guy?" And Dixon comes around the corner with the girl. She had caught the girl. So
yeah.
then they go back into the bar and explain to the girl that they're 1/10 with her boyfriend Sanchez. And if you want to go from here, Jay, you can.
Well, something cool about that hallway scene is when the guy says, "This is as far as we're going." Neely hears another guy coming up behind them, and that's when she's like, "What's going on, fellas?" Well, that fight happens there, but then this dude grabs Neely and she flips out.
Don't touch me.
Don't touch me. She just mollywops this dude. Like she's badass. She really is. Not like a Mary Sue kind of badass. She's like legit badass in this. Um, so they go back in and talk to them, and then she mentions something about Franz asking for help on a case,
Yep. She was
and
on the phone with him,
yeah, and
and
that
they were asking her questions about, was he working with Swan? Was he working with Orozco? And she's like, I don't know. Why don't we just go ask Franz? And Reacher, being Reacher, just says, well, we can't. Somebody threw him out of a helicopter. And she goes in shock, and the rest of the 110 look at him like, dude, you
yeah,
can't just say that.
tact, man, tact.
So then she recalls a phone conversation that she had, and I think it was Dixon that said, well, what did he say? And she's like, I don't really remember, but he mentioned some numbers, something about 650 at 100K each. And Reacher's like, are you sure about those numbers? And the woman's like in tears, and she's like, you don't forget the last thing that the man you love tells to you. So now we have this mystery of 650 at 100K each that they're trying to figure out what that means. And since Sanchez and Roscoe were like freelance security for casinos, they thought maybe that there was some kind of a casino scam going on. So they go to the casino, where they were being the security, and they want to talk to the head of security. So they go into the casino and ask to talk to the head of security. Which the head of security, if you guys, is this cracked me up. If you've ever watched Deck the Halls, it's a Christmas movie that has what's the guy's name? He played the Penguin. I can remember
Yeah,
Danny DeVito.
yeah.
Yeah,
They had Danny DeVito and the
Jamie
guy
Lee
that played
Curtis.
Ferris Bueller were in it, and they're in. It's a
No, I'm thinking
Christmas
something
movie,
different.
and this guy was a car salesman, but in Reacher he's the head of security.
Lachlan
And
Monroe.
oh, okay, I had no idea what his name was.
Love that dude. Love that
Yep.
dude. Freddy
Oh,
versus Jason.
yep. That was the other thing I was going to mention because that's one of my favorite movies.
Peacemaker season one. He's been in a lot of things.
Yep.
So it's basically like at first I think this guy is not maybe not on the up and up, but I was proven wrong. They they talked to him about how they think it might be a scam to check your numbers, check your competitors' numbers, and then Reacher not really asking says, "Here, since you're already on there, look at these names too. Look for these names. See if you find anything on these names."
Yeah, and he gives him the list of the AM names.
Yeah, and he goes, "Well, this might take a couple hours. Y'all are y'all staying anywhere?" And Neely's like, "Well, not yet." He goes, "Okay." Types into the computer. He's like, "Well, unfortunately, the only thing I have is a suite." And Reacher's like, "No, we'll find somewhere else." And Neely's like, "Reacher, when someone offers you to comp or offers you a comp suite, just take it. We'll just bring you up." And then O'Donnell makes the crack about, "We'll just have them bring you up a park bench to sleep on."
Yep.
Yeah, so they get to the suite, and thing's gorgeous, man. Like they open those doors, and I was like, "Damn!" But
And they're sitting around like talking, catching up with each other about him, McDonald being a family man now. And then they mentioned something about Dixon. He says he has kids, and he looks at Dixon, and he's like, well, you're gonna find out about that soon. And Reacher looks at her and he goes, you're pregnant? And she like spits out her whiskey. No. And they're like, no, she's not pregnant, but she's engaged. Somebody finally hooked our little butterfly. And she says, about that, you can cancel the date because we broke it off. And you could see like a look of relief on Reacher's face because he was like, damn it, she's getting married. But now he knows she's single again. So that made him a little happier. So then him and her go down to start in the casino to have a drink. And she starts winning like crazy at 21 because she's counting cards. So the head of the casino guy comes up and offers her tickets to an 80s band show or something. And she's like, no, thanks. And he's like, look, I know you're counting cards. And she looks him right in the eye, which is totally legal as long as I'm doing it in my head. But since I've taken enough of your money, I'll go ahead and check out. Why don't you give these guys or these tickets to that guy over there in the leather jacket? Well, the guy in the leather jacket had his back to him, just so happened to be the Seropian guy that had been talking to Langston on the phone, but they
The
didn't know that.
members only jacket.
Yeah, members only
Members
jacket.
only jacket. The funniest part about that scene when they first get in the room, though, is Reacher going to the bathroom,
Oh,
and
are you
Dixon's like,
unpacked?
"You unpacked yet?" And he takes out his toothbrush, sets it down, and he goes, "Yep."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like Tiffany and Debbie Harris. And I was like, "You sure you don't want to go to that show?" I mean, whatever. So they are walking out, and
After they cashed out.
after they cash out, they're walking around the whatever, just walking around. They're outside of the casino though,
And
and
talking about why they never hooked up.
yeah. And once again, Reacher tells her, and she's like, "Well, I've waited years to hear that, and that's basically the most like Reacher answer I could have gotten."
Yep. And then she says, "So that now that that's out of the way, what do we want to do about these two guys that have been following us?" And he's
Mhm.
like, "Oh, you noticed that, huh?" And she's like, "Yeah, they've been following us since we left the casino." And he said, "Yeah, at first I thought they were following us to take your money, but do you see that car up there parked? I'm pretty sure when we get near that car, somebody's going to jump out with a gun. They're out to kill us." And she's like, "Well, what's your move?" And he looks at this fence. He's like, "Let's climb the fence and fight it out." So they take off running, and as soon as they take off running, the car starts. The dudes behind them run. They climb over the fence, and they end up in a construction zone. And I think Jay will have fun telling this part.
Oh
So I'll let
God!
Jay take over.
So the first thing is when they walk into this, there's this pit of concrete. First of all, the fact that Reacher could walk through it and he didn't sink blew my mind. Like I was like, I don't know how believable that is. That's a big dude. That felt like he would sink like a rock. But he walks across it. It's to let us know this is wet cement. Okay,
Yeah,
so
you
you
can
can
see
kind
his footprints.
yeah, you can kind of guess what's going to happen around this scene. So they split off. They decide no guns. You know the cops are after him. He did beat the crap out of a cop, so they're not going to use any guns. So she grabs it looks like a piece of rebar. She goes one way. Reacher goes another. And the first guy Reacher meets, he like trips him with this cable, and like the stunt work in this scene is phenomenal because he trips him on the scaffolding with a cable. Dude smacks that, falls back. Then one of the parts that was a little unbelievable. Again, I know you got to suspend disbelief, but when Reacher grabbed the cinder block and nailed the dude in the head with it,
And it explodes.
it exploded. I was like, dude, that should have been done. That should have been night to that guy. No, it wasn't. Dude pulls out a knife, and I can't remember what they're called. A spackle or trowel.
A trowel.
Trowel, yeah.
Yeah, one of those
Reacher,
pointed trowels for doing spackle in concrete. Yeah.
yeah. Reacher grabs that to defend himself against the guy with the knife because the guy got him. Guy got him right across.
Well, he had to cut Reacher, so Reacher would have an excuse to take off his shirt and stitch himself on camera.
That's true. That's true.
He gets cut in every season.
Exactly. Now he's got this thing fighting the dude off with a knife, and he's stabbing this dude. Like I'm not talking pokes. He got him right in the arm in the first shot. That now this thing is like pointed up like that. It's not small.
Mm-hmm.
Gets him in the arm. Then he gets him right here behind the shoulder, like just stabbing this dude. And then I can't remember
He
what he
he
did
he
after
stabs
that.
him and then he like body slams him off the top of the
Yeah,
scaffolding and he lands on a pallet full of cinder blocks and they all explode and that guy's dead. So
finally.
there's death number 2.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Dixon fighting the other guy.
Right.
And just as that guy is getting the fix on Dixon, you hear a shot go off and Reacher kills him. But then Seropian jumps Reacher and they end up getting into a fight. And Reacher grabs him by the back of the hair and sticks his face in the concrete. and holds it there until the guy suffocates in the concrete and he's dead.
Yeah.
So Dixon comes up and they're like, well, what are we going to do with the bodies? And the next thing you know, you see them throwing the bodies in the wet concrete and they're
Flips them over.
slowly sinking down
Yeah.
into the concrete until they disappear. Hi, Jenna.
Can I
Hey,
ask
Jenna.
you a weird question?
Probably.
Weird
Okay, is
questions.
Chad Smith, the amazing drummer that he is, that needs no introductions, related to Will Ferrell?
Oh my God.
Mm-mm.
No.
They
That's a whole thing
Yes,
between
they're
the two of
twin
them.
brothers.
okay,
Oh,
because
jeez.
I mean, are they not the same person? Have we ever seen them in the room together?
Have you just learned that joke?
Yes.
Look up the Jimmy Kimmel interview with them.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Jenna, when you're done, try to get past like 1994. And
Oh, hush up. So Chad Smith's doing this thing on TikTok where he's going and looking at other bands and stuff, and then they take out the drums, and then he has to figure out how to play it, but he's doing it better than the original versions, and it's not fair. And I need these versions in my life more. And damn it, Janet, I love you.
I love you too. So now that I'm totally off track now.
I'm
Good to see you.
sorry.
Glad you're home. Hope you had a good day.
It was mostly good.
we just sunk the bodies in the concrete.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
So he takes the cars or the keys out of Seropian's pants and they go and look in the car. And while they're searching Seropian's car, Reacher finds a burner cell phone on the overhead and he grabs it and starts going through it and he sees a number that had been talked to repeatedly. So he calls it. And I can't remember his name now. I know his name in the show, but the actor's name.
Robert Patrick?
Yeah, he answers it. So he was calling Langston, and all you hear is Langston say, "Is it done?" And Reacher's like, "It's done, but not the way you wanted it." And Langston's like, "You're effing with the wrong man, Reacher." And Reacher says, "Then why are you the one that sounds scared?" And hangs up the phone, which was great. And then Reacher goes on a rant about they should have left one of them alive to question because now they don't have any evidence because that was a burner phone. And that's when Dixon finds the parking tag for the new age technologies that was on the floor or in the glove box. I can't remember. And that's what leads them to new age technologies.
Wow.
And then, of course, Reacher's like, "You want to go have a beer?" And then they go and they bang like you knew they were going to bang because they
yes.
were going to
Because
bang.
here's I don't know what it is about this scene.
They bang.
But, well, other than that. So Reacher's stitching himself up in the mirror. The bastard. Dude looks like he was carved out of granite. It's not fair. And you can tell she's watching him. She's watching him. But Dixon ends up noticing she got caught with a piece of shrapnel. Her
And of
adrenaline.
course, it was on the boob.
Yeah, of course, because that's where shrapnel goes.
Oh, yeah, that's where I'd go if I was a bullet, right?
True. That's exactly true.
Hit them titties.
So
Getting close.
damn. So she gets in there. She's looking in the mirror with him, and he puts some alcohol on it. And he gets up and he's like, and he's blowing on it. And she's like, what are you doing?
Jay, can you do that again, but slower? Sorry, brother. Just
No,
messing with you.
you're good, man. I knew exactly what was happening when I did it. But that scene got a chuckle out because it wasn't him trying to be funny, but it was just funny because it's Reacher. And
Well,
him,
she even says, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, that's what my mom did to me when it would sting." And she's like, "You do realize you're giving me more germs than anything?" And he's like, "But it feels good." And then she does you don't need to be alone tonight. And off goes the shirt, and they throw her on the bed. And even though they've been shot and stabbed, blinga, blinga, banga, banga. And now it's the next morning, and they walk out of the room, and they're like, "What's going on?" And um, the one guy says, I can't remember his name at the moment. I'm so bad with names.
O'Connell
O'Donnell, yeah.
or O'Donnell.
O'Donnell's like, everybody in the hotel knows what was going on last night. We could all hear it. And Dixon looks right at Reacher and says, I told you were loud.
But the fact that she okay, Triple B. He throws her down on the bed. Because I gotta talk about this part because this part was pretty hot.
Oh boy. Keep
Leg.
your hands where we can see them.
Yeah, I know. That's why I have them up here. Legs only. She flips Reacher around onto his back, and I was like, "Damn,
And at that point, Jay's like,
why don't these damn things come with slow mo anymore?" But
pause.
So when they're back in the room with everybody else, and White, was it White or Right?
I think it was right.
Right. Okay. Right comes to the door. He talked to other people. Nobody's been hit. They don't know anything about, doesn't look like this thing has to do with casinos at all. But while looking, I guess he finds a police report from New York where 2 bodies have been found. They've been deteriorating, but you can kind of tell where this is going. There was a mark on one of them, basically. So you know who it is, and they show the picture, and it's a Roscoe.
Yeah, it's remember how he had the name tagged on it or tattooed on his back? And Reacher explains why he did that. His sister was afraid he was going to get killed in battle, and his army tags, his dog tags, would get lost. So he tattooed his last name and his serial number on his back so that his sister would always know if something happened to him. And Reacher said everybody thought it was dumb, but Roscoe didn't care because he loved his sister. And that was kind of a little heartfelt moment too.
Yep. So you got Swan's missing, presumed dead. You got Orozco, and dang it, I keep forgetting the other guy's name.
Sanchez are both dead, and then you had the original one that died, Franz. Yeah. But we did skip a scene because in between they took us to Denver where the AM guy got off the plane, and he was getting the route for the truck. And he says all 650 will be in the truck, but you're not going to kill the driver, are you? And the guy's like, me? I'd never kill anyone. And this is the same guy that slit throats and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. And then it goes to the scene Jay's talking about. And the owner is like, you guys look really pissed. What's going on? And Reacher looks at the door and starts walking. They're like, where are you going, big guy? And he's like, we need more guns. And that's the way the episode 2 ended.
Yeah.
We need more guns.
My goodness, dude. Like, oh.
Can you believe we're only in the first 2 seasons? We better speed this up.
I know.
If you want to do all 8 episodes.
I know.
So episode 3 starts, they do that, I think it said something like a 10-day flashback or whatever. And it's basically just Langley torturing Franz. They got him hanging by his hands and they're beating on him. And he breaks both of his legs with a crowbar, like Reacher said. But he wouldn't talk and he wouldn't give up his friends. So he's like, strap him on the gurney and let's go. And the next thing you know, they're in the helicopter. And they're like, all right, asshole, this is your last chance. You either talk or you fly. And Franz starts laughing. And Langston looks at him and goes, what the hell are you laughing at? And he just says, I'm just thinking about what the big guy's going to do to you. And they throw him out of the helicopter. And after they throw him out of the helicopter, Langston looks right in the camera and goes, big guy? Who the hell is he talking about? And then the Reacher thing comes up and the episode begins.
Yeah.
And it starts with Reacher getting guns at that gun shop. And that's one of the funniest scenes. Where him and that clerk going back and forth.
Yeah, because he gets all those. Yeah, he's like he gets all those guns. Yeah, he gets all the guns. You got guns and burner cell phones in the same place. Like this is definitely You don't care that much about the law, my friend.
Well, wasn't it a pawn shop?
I'm not sure if it was a pawn shop. I don't know. I didn't
Hmm.
pay that close of attention, but it was just funny because the guy selling to him, he's like, you have to wait 7 days for a permit, and he's like, yeah, but I don't have to. Technically, there's 7 days, could be any 7 days, because any 7 day period, and they just go back and forth. And he's like, plus you can lend them to a friend, and the guy's like, I'm so and so, and Reacher says I'm so and so. He gives him a bogus name. He goes, but even though I'm friends, I'm supposed to be present unless you're doing something with sportful, like shooting targets or hunting. And Reacher's like, a little bit of both. And at that point, the guy just kind of looked at him, and Reacher sat down a roll of fat 50s. And the guy picks him up and flips him, and Reacher goes walking out with a bag full of guns. We skipped a lot, but we're trying to save some time. So
Yeah, he says, "How about you just be with us in spirit?"
yeah,
You set down the money.
yo. So then he hands out the guns in the car, and one of my favorites is O'Donnell. He gives O'Donnell a Glock 17, and did we lose him? So anyway, Reacher gives out the guns, and O'Donnell starts moaning. He's like, "I prefer my Glock 17," and Reacher says, "You got a Glock 17." And O'Donnell said, "I want my Glock 17," and Reacher starts laughing. He's like, "What's so funny?" And he says, "Because a 200 hitter is complaining about his new bat." And he's like, "Kiss my ass. I'm a good shot, ain't I? Tell him, Dixon. Tell him about that one shot I made." And she goes, "Yep, it was the luckiest shot I ever seen. Oh, to hell with both of you guys." And he flips them off, and they start bantering about the guns. So, and then while they're driving, a cop pulls them over, and they pull over, and the cop comes up, and he sees Reacher, and he's like, "Stay here." And they go back. He goes back to the squad car. So Reacher knows immediately what's going on. This is because he beat up the cop, and he reclines his chair right into O'Donnell's lap. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you going to sleep?" He's like, "I'm about to be arrested soon, so I got to sleep while I can."
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, here comes the bald guy, and we find out that his name was Russo, and Russo was the name of the cop, tapping on the window, and he's like, "Get out of here, get out of the car." And Reacher turns to Neely, and he's like, "Take my gun, and I'll pay you back later." And he's like, "What are you waiting for, asshole? Get out of the car." And he gets him out, and he puts his hands up on the roof, and he cuffs him and everything. And Reacher's like, "O'Donnell, you went to law school, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yeah, Rutgers." And Reacher's like, "Okay, so you kind of went to law school." And he flips him off. And they're walking back to the squad car, and O'Donnell's coming with him. And O'Donnell starts telling Russo all this BS about, "If you separate me from my client, this is habeas corpus, blah, blah, blah." And Russo looks at him, and he's like, "Ain't none of that shit true." And Reacher's like, "Oh, Rutgers." And they get in the car. And Russo takes Reacher and O'Donnell to the station for questioning. And if you want to go from there, Jay, go for it.
Yeah. So you
Sorry,
both.
I was just trying to speed things up for
No,
you.
yeah, no, you're good, man. You're good. So this is the part where you basically find out Guy, what they call Russo, was actually like the lead investigator on Franz's case. So that's why he was tailing them. Um,
And
so
in the meantime, Dixon and Neely went to New Age while they're being questioned, and they take that parking tag in there, and they're given the address to the Seropian guy from the lady that was in charge. So they now have a name and an address for that Seropian guy that Reacher had already
yeah,
killed and buried in concrete.
yeah, and
And
they told the truth.
yep, they did. They
That
did.
was the thing that got me. They told the lady the truth that
Yep.
their friends were murdered, and so that's how she goes, and that's how she goes and gets the information. So
Well, and then it jumps back to the police station, and Reacher and O'Donnell and Russo are having a banter. And Russo says, "Whatever your friends got involved in, it's going get." And Reacher's like, "I don't like the way you use the word involved." And Russo's like, "Involved's involved. I don't give a shit how you like it." And Reacher's like, "Big words when I'm handcuffed." So Don or Russo comes right over, takes his cuffs off, gets right in his face, and says, "I'm not a crooked cop. I don't take envelopes." And that earned Reacher's trust at that point, I think. And that's when they started swapping information, and they gave Russo that list of aliases and asked him to watch for anybody entering or leaving the city with that name. And they have a little bit more banter going back and forth. I don't know how much you want to skip or fast forward, so I'm going to let you take it for a moment.
Okay. So, um, I want to skip to the part where Dixon kind of figures out, or at least she thinks she figures out what the numbers mean. They're not fractions. She thinks that they
Oh, yep. An
represent days.
event happens so many different times on so many different days. So
Yeah.
instead of it being 9/13ths, something was supposed to happen 13 times, but only happened 9 times. And
Yeah.
on the 7 sheets of paper, 20 or 6 of them only had 20, and one of them had 27, and that would correspond with the number of days in a 6-day work week. So she figured out that it's some kind of a schedule of some kind of an invoice of some kind of things that are supposed to be happening, but they're not happening as many times. And the funny part about that is, while she's telling Neely, she's like, "Numbers never lie." And Neely's like, "You lost me when you said fraction."
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So there's I can't remember exactly how it happens, but they end up going to Seropian's house.
Well, that's because they got the address.
The address. Okay.
And Reacher knew it was a trap, so before they went there, they went to the hardware store and he built a pipe bomb.
Yes. So they get to this house. They open the door before anything. They throw the pipe bomb in there, and there's big shootout. Dixon gets saved by O'Donnell
Oh
by
yeah,
this
we
really
forgot the joke, because when they were teasing him about not being able to joke, she said you couldn't hit a jackass with a shovel from
yeah
point blank range or whatever.
yeah
And she was about to get killed, and a bullet goes through the side of the guy's head, and O'Donnell walks out and he goes, "Jackass, meet shovel."
yeah yeah.
Yeah, that
Well,
was a good spot.
there's an older gentleman, I guess, in a getaway car or something, or went
He
to
was
come
the guy that was working for New Age that was making sure that the hit went down and they got them all killed.
right.
And Reacher spotted him trying to get away.
So dude's driving away.
And Reacher invites him to a barbecue.
Yes. And while trying to run this guy down on foot, finds a barbecue grill, throws it through the dude's window. Guy ends up crashing. Uh, Reacher pulls him out of the car, tries to question him, and the dude has a heart attack and dies.
And Reacher's like, "Are you seriously having a heart attack right now?" And he starts giving him heart to heart, and he's like, "Who's in charge? Damn it!" And the guy dies, and he's like, "Son of a bitch."
Let's see. And now that they've pretty much figured out that New Age is confirmed, they go and they raid the headquarters.
They steal that guy's car that he threw the barbecue in
Yeah, they
and
back
drove
it up
it
to the gates.
literally. Yeah, they
Yeah,
literally drove it into the building. And Reacher's like, "You're in charge of grabbing files. You're in charge of grabbing hard drives. I'll grab everything else. Meet back at the truck in 3 minutes. If I'm not here, leave without me."
yep. So there's one more thing that Reacher grabs before he leaves. Well, everybody else gets to the car. Neely or Dixon wants
Dixon.
them to wait, and Neely's like, "Nope." He said to go.
When Jack Reacher says a command, you do what Jack Reacher says.
And while they're driving away, here comes Reacher running. Like as soon as they start pulling
Yep.
away, they stop. He gets in. He goes, "You guys were gonna leave me," or something like that. He
Yeah,
says,
he's
Can't
like, "I
believe
can't
you guys
believe
were gonna
you're
leave
gonna
me.
leave me." And Neely's like, "You're such an asshole."
"Well, they stop. They drive away. Obviously, they get away, and they stop in this area. And one of the things that Reacher took was this picture of an employee picture. And while looking at this picture, they find out Swan was working for New Age Technologies.
Yep.
And that's how that.
He's
And
standing right next to Langston and the girl that they had interviewed that gave them the address to Seropian's house. That was the setup. So
Mm.
now they're all starting to think that Swan is in on it, but Reacher still refuses to believe it. And that's how it ended, was Reacher saying he was working for New Age with the people who've been trying to kill us. And that was the end of the episode.
and Marlo Burns was her name.
Yep.
Marlo Burns.
I'm gonna run to the
Yep.
bathroom real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll drop you out. We can leave them on there. So
Ew. Oh.
so the next episode.
The next episode starts where they're all going through the information, and
Yeah.
they're all trying to say that Swan is guilty and Reacher doesn't want to believe it or any of that stuff. And then it goes to Russo being yelled at for his boss for um cooperating with those people, and you brought me evidence for this new age, and the night you bring me the evidence it gets broken into, it has to be those rogue assholes you're working with. And Russo tells him to keep his voice down, and the boss like, keep my voice down in my own office, get the out of here and go stop those cowboys before they cause more problems. And all that kind of stuff was going on. And then while they're going through the evidence that they gathered from New Age, they're not finding anything. And Dixon's like, great, we almost went to jail over some parking tickets and some unpaid bills. And that's when uh, Neely says, wait a minute, something's up here. I found an email from Swan to that Marla, and it's like it's the content. I think you'll really like this new Jimi Hendrix album. Track 4 is excellent. And she's like, and everybody's like, well, wait a minute, he didn't like um Hendrix, so something's wrong. And O'Donnell's like, or he was trying to get laid. Guys will say anything to get laid. And so he's like, well, what was the name of the song? And they look up the album, and the name of the song was Little Wing. And Reacher's like, Little Wing. And he like, they're sitting at a diner table with food and everything. And he takes his arm and like just sweeps it. And everybody's like trying to grab stuff so it don't spill all over him. And he puts all the files down and he finds a file for Project Little Wing. So they got their first real clue that Swan and the Little Wing are somehow connected and they know what's going on. And then at that point, they're still trying to convince Reacher that Swan's guilty. And O'Donnell says that he works for some crooked politicians and his job is to keep their dirty laundry from being dirty. So if they have secrets, he'll find out the secrets, because one of the people mentioned was a Senator Malcolm's legislative director, and he could get access to him and get information. So then they flash back again to the 110 season this huge thing of heroin, and there was a bag of the heroin missing when they got back to the office. And they all had counted the heroin. They all knew there were so many heroines, but one was missing. So they said, well, we took Swan's car, so let's check Swan's car. So they all go out, and Swan, I don't know if this was on purpose or if it was just to make you think, but Swan kind of knew right where it was. He looked right where it was and pulled it out and says, oh, here it is. It must have fell.
Yeah.
And he's like, beers on me tonight for that oversight. And Neely makes the comment to Reacher, he's like, for that much heroin, it should be more than one drink. And Reacher's like, what are you getting at? And she's like, nothing, boss. I'm just saying. So they're kind of implying that Swan might have been trying to take a brick of heroin to sell for himself, because he went on this long rant about how these heroin dealers make way more money than they do when they're the good guys trying to stop them, but the bad guys are sitting there getting rich. So they're planting a seed in your mind that Swan might be against them and might be the big bad behind Langston, and it could be a 110 versus 110 thing going on.
Yeah.
So, but in the meantime, the guy that's been traveling with the AM finds out that his identity got compromised, because when he went to get on the airport to go meet with Langston, the feds were so obvious feds that it was pathetic. I mean,
Yeah.
they were looking so guilty. He immediately knew they were feds. So he decided not to get on the plane and just left the airport, and he called Langston and said there was going to be a delay. And Langston's like, a delay? What do you mean a delay? A delay could cause us all to go to prison and cost billions of dollars. And the guy's like, how many of these deals have you made before? And Langston's like, none. He's like, I've made several. Everything will be fine. The deal will happen. I'm just going to be delayed. And he's like, well, if they've got all your aliases, how in the hell are you going to get on an airplane and get out here to LA? And just then he looked at a bench and there was a plastic surgeon who looked almost exactly like him with an ad for his office. And he's like, I have an idea. So he ends up going to the plastic surgeon's office. He kills the plastic surgeon, steals his ID, kills the secretary, and writes a note on the door, all appointments canceled for the next 4 days. And now he's got his new identity that will allow him to get out and meet with those guys.
Yeah.
So
So then we got this other plan going on where there's a senator's aide is
Lavoie,
hmm?
the Senator Lavoie's aide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Senator Lavoie's aide, who is the person, one of the people that O'Donnell like cleared up a bunch of crap he had done when he was younger or something.
Mm-hmm.
So he and Reacher, with the help of a an old friend
Mm-hmm.
from season one, Finley, get this plan together. And the plan is during the symphony they're at, it's they dress up Neely and Dixon, which both of them look freaking amazing in those dresses, by the way. But they're basically going to have uh, Dixon seduce this aide,
Mm-hmm.
and she does, obviously, gets them out, and they get in her vehicle, his vehicle, they get in a vehicle, and they park like in an alley, and Dixon pulls out some drugs. Wasn't ever sure. Thought it was coke or something, but she she's acting like she doesn't know how to cut the stuff up. So she has the aide do it, and then he tries to get her to go first, and she's like, "No, no, you go ahead."
You
Well,
did
right,
the work, you get the reward.
yeah, right when he goes to do the line, tapping on the window and busted.
Finley
Yeah, it's Finley.
from the first season.
Yeah, and they're taking it. He's taken into a room, and Reacher and O'Donnell come in pretending to be agents or something, and they basically get this dude to spill everything on Little Wing. Now, from his perspective, the way he's saying it, they don't know that this project is going to be used for anything other than protecting the United States. Like he thinks this guy thinks it's only for U.S. protection, that nobody else is going to be able to use this. Blah blah blah.
Yep.
So
He explains that it's a new like bazooka type missile that you shoot at any aircraft and it's guaranteed to hit the aircraft because what it does is it intentionally misses the aircraft, making the pilot think they've avoided it, and then turns around and comes and gets it from the other angle and destroys it. And it's guaranteed to hit whatever it's launched at. And that's when Finley's like, wait a minute, if it hits whatever you shoot, you said it yourself, it could be used against commercial airlines. And that's when the eyebrows raise. And he's like, yeah, but it's our tech. Other people don't have it. And at that point, they're like, yeah, we're done with you. We got the information we need. And the best part of that, though, was when they had the guy cuffed and Finley was interrogating him, Reacher and O'Donnell walk in pretending to be feds. And when Reacher introduces himself to Finley, he says, I'm Officer Margrave. And if you remember, Margrave was the name of the town from the first season where he met Finley. And Finley cracked a smile and almost laughed at that, but held his composure. But anyway, they got the information they needed to find out that what New Wing was, and they also found out that there was a second office. One was in Denver that had the hardware, and one was in New York that had the software. And that's when they find out that the guy that they thought they were going to catch at the airport was on to him, because he never showed up and took a different flight. So now they're trying to piece everything together and find the big bad guy and stop him from selling the missiles.
Yeah, because
And that was the other thing, is while the concert was going on, Reacher figured out, he started messing with the fractions. And it was so many out of so many, and the number that was missing was 650. And if you remember, the number that was given to them was 650 at 100,000 each. So he knew that he had figured out that that was the 650. So once they put together that it was the missiles and the 650, now they knew they were looking for 650 bazooka missiles at 100,000 each, and there was an arms deal going on.
Yep, and near the end of this episode, they're pulling into this diner. They're all still they're still dressed up, and they get they're like ambushed by this biker gang. Which the head guy of the biker gang was, I want to say, in Letterkenny as one of the hockey players.
Yeah,
He looks so familiar.
yeah.
But
I'm gonna cut you, and I'm gonna gut you.
yeah, and it's just an awesome fight. Like those bikers and the team, it was a very kick ass fight. Like Reacher just breaks this dude's leg. These folks get messed up. Like you have,
Dixon shoves a heel through
yeah,
the guy's eyeball and kills him
God,
with it.
yeah. Like it's crazy. It's a
And
crazy fight.
once the fight's over and they're all dead, a phone rings from the pocket, and Richard picks it up, and it's Langston again. And he clicks it up, and Langston's like, "Is it done?" And Reacher's like, "Not the way you wanted." And he's like, "Damn it, Reacher, you don't know what you're messing with here. But maybe we're approaching this the wrong way. Everybody has a price. What do you want? What can I give you? What do you want?" And Reacher looks right at the camera and says, "I want to throw you out of a helicopter." And that was the end of episode 4. I almost said issue.
I'm telling you, dude. After
Too
working
many
with Dan for
comics.
so long, man.
Oh.
So the next episode is it starts out with Neely and Dixon visiting the facility in Denver.
Yes and no, but yeah. It starts off at O'Donnell's house where Reacher meets his wife and kids,
Oh,
but
that's right. The little
that's not super important, but it lets you know that O'Donnell is a family man, and he tells his wife that he'll be home safe, and you can see in Reacher's eyes where Reacher now has to make sure O'Donnell comes home safe.
yeah,
And then it switches to Neely and Dixon at the Denver branch,
right.
pretending to be inspectors. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, and they're hoping to see the missiles, but the guy's like, you've missed them. They've already been taken out because they're moving them with a truck, and that goes back to the guy giving AM the damn it, the tracker for the route
Mm-hmm.
for the truck. So it goes all the way back to that. Well, the one of AM's henchmen was pretending to be another driver, and that had his truck broken down. So unfortunately, this other driver who was doing nothing more than trying to be helpful, stops his truck only to be killed. Like
Mowed down.
yeah, they killed him, just like the guy was like, "Well, we're not going to hurt the driver. Nothing's going to happen to the driver." Nope, driver gone. So
And Neely and Dixon had found out that they had just missed the truck by 10 minutes.
yeah,
So they were following the truck route.
yeah, and the henchman opens up the trailer, and it reveals that there's more people in the back of it and the missiles.
Mm-hmm.
So when Neely and Dixon come to the scene, the henchman had already just switched the trailers too.
Yep.
So I want to say that Neely and Dixon get into a firefight with the henchmen that were left behind.
Yep.
And
They
end up
start
killing.
shooting at the car, and they hide in the trunk and then pop out of the trunk and kill them all.
Yeah.
And Neely tells Dixon to go get the manifest so they can figure out where the missiles were going, and they got a bad look in their eye, and then they went running. They said, "Call 911, get the cops here, but we got to get out of here." And they go running through the woods, and they call Reacher, and they're like, "Do you want the bad news or the worst news?" And O'Donnell's like, "Well, just give us some." And they're like, "Well, the truck full of missiles got hijacked." And O'Donnell says, "Please tell me that's the worst news." And Neely is like, "You wish." The worst news is the orders came from Dixon. His thumbprint is on the orders. So
Swan.
I
Yeah.
mean, sorry, Swan. Swan's thumbprint is on the order. So now they're all thinking that Swan is alive, gave the order, gave the authorization because his signature and thumbprint were on the order for the thing to be swapped.
Yeah, and so while that's going on with them, Reacher and O'Donnell go to the Department of Homeland Security. I think they go to Washington.
Hmm.
Go there, and they're gonna get. They're trying to look for information on AM, and I can't remember if they're.
Somehow they knew his brother
There you
because
go. Yes.
yeah, they knew one of them was his brother, partner from the first season,
Yes.
and they said, "Don't worry, we're gonna catch all these guys." And Reacher's like, "Not if I kill them all first." And the guy says, "Oh my God, he's just like his brother."
Yeah. Yeah.
So then they go to the funeral for Franz's family,
Yeah.
and O'Donnell sees Russo giving a toy to the kid, and Reacher gets pissed because he thinks he's giving a toy to the kid to get some action with the mom because the mom is now a widow, and confronts Russo, and him and Russo almost get into a fight. And Russo's like, if you accuse me of being a bad cop again, I don't care if we're right here in front of the statue of Mary Mother, I will beat the hell out of you. And just then, Reacher spots a rifle barrel, and he yells "duck" just as the 21 gun salute's going on. Because what had happened is two snipers were actually there to kill them during the funeral. So they go chasing after the snipers, and Reacher loses them, but Russo shows up in a car and tells him to hop in. And Reacher hops into the car, and they go taking off after the sniper. And Reacher's telling Russo how to drive, and Russo's like, "Do you want to just drive?" And Reacher's like, "Actually, yes." And he reaches his leg across the middle and puts the pedal to the floor, grabs the steering wheel, starts running over garbage cans, jumping curbs, and smashes into the guy. And finally, the guy gives up, and they start playing good cop, bad cop, kinda. Because the guy's like, "Look, I don't know anything. I was just hired to shoot you. I was just hired to kill you." And Reacher put his hands around his throat, and he's like, "Who hired you?" And Russo's like, "What are you doing?" And Reacher's like, "Just turn the other way and let me get this done." And that's what scares the hell out of the guy. And the guy's like, "I'll talk, I'll talk, I'll talk." So he's like, "All right, what does Langston want?" And the guy's like, "Who the hell's Langston?" And Reacher's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "I don't know a Langston." And he said, "Well, then who's in charge?" "Some guy named Swan." So that tells you again that Swan could be the big bad guy. So they make an arrangement with the guy, and but that's the next episode. I think that ended. Oh no, it does end with. So
Yeah.
they follow the guy to where he's supposed to get paid, and the arrangement was he was going to go into a barn and get paid, and Neely asked Reacher, "If Swan's in there and you find out, what are you going to do?" And he's like, "I'm going to do the same thing I did to him. I'll put my hands around his throat and get the truth." And as soon as the sniper opens the door and walks in, the whole building explodes.
Yep.
And I think that's how that episode ended,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. So
Yeah.
that's how episode 5 ended. So we're being led more and more to think that Swan is behind this whole thing.
Yeah.
And now we're into episode 6, which starts right at the explosion with them debating as to whether or not Swan was the bad guy. And
Yeah. There's also like I said, I'm gonna skip around just a little bit. And Ed, always feel free to correct me if I skip over
sure,
something too far.
sure.
So uh so Reacher has a lead, or not Reacher, Russo. Russo has a lead on the location of Marlo Burns because she's disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't been seen. Now, if you remember correctly, Reacher is excellent at tracking people. So we didn't get the cool thing where he basically walks you through how he's going to find her. We basically just they track her down.
Well, no,
She
they kind of did.
well,
Because he's like, well, if I was her, the first place I'd stop is here, and then I have a kid, so I'm going to be hungry, so I would go into a party store like that one. And they go into that party store, and they go through the security footage of that party store, and sure enough, her and her daughter were in there buying snacks. And that's when Neely realizes that she has a handheld video game. And Neely's like, if she's online playing, I just need to get her handle and I can hook up with her online and find out where they're at. And they're like, well, how are you going to do that? And she's like, well, we're going to go back to their house and I'll go through her games and find out her handle. And so they go back to the lady's house. And the first thing she does is tell O'Donnell to get her cereal, of course, because she can't do anything without cereal. And starts playing video games, finds the kid, tracks the IP to find out where Marlo is. So then O'Donnell and Reacher and um, Dixon go to this location to find her.
oh, I guess it felt like it wasn't maybe because it was acted through instead of Reacher just sitting with the map circling places.
Yeah,
Maybe it just felt different because we actually went through what they were doing. But she's with her brother or her friend or something.
that was a friend.
It was a friend, and I'm gonna tell you this: when he first walked up to that big window, when he was worried about the sprinklers, I thought for sure he was about to get got. I thought they were about to murk that dude as soon as he stepped up there, but no, he goes out to check what's going on with the sprinkler system, and it's actually Reacher and the team.
Yep.
And they have him out in the garage, have him tied down to a chair, and
He wouldn't talk.
he wouldn't talk. So I can't remember what
Reacher grabs a 2-liter and puts it on
oh
his gun
yeah,
and he
okay,
tapes
yeah.
it and he's like, now I have a silencer so I can shoot you anywhere I want as many times as I want, or you can just answer the question. And the guy's shitting his pants and he's like, Marlo's in the house, I don't know. And he's like, call for her and get her out here. So he walks over and he's opening the door. Marlo, can I see you for a minute? And he sits down and Reacher starts laughing. He's like, it's an eighth of an inch of plastic. You really think this is going to be a silencer? Civilians. And they all start laughing and he pulls the bottle off.
Yeah.
And Marlo comes in and she recognizes Neely and Dixon because they went to New Age with that parking tag and she was the one that helped them. And they're like, we need to know what's going on with Swan and why Swan is doing this. And she's like, Swan's not doing it. Swan's trying to stop it. And they're like, what do you mean? Swan came in to help us figure out what was going on. And Reacher looked at like O'Donnell right in the eye and he's like, I told you he was innocent, but he didn't say it. He just looked at him like, some of us knew that. So Swan wasn't in on it. He was trying to actually stop it. You muted yourself, brother.
Damn it, I keep doing that. You find out that they're actually on the run from Langston because Langston had been like, don't get involved with Swan. I'll kill you and your daughter. Like,
Yeah, he said he promised he'd take care of him, but she knew what he had done to other people, and she was
right,
afraid of what she'd do to his daughter.
right,
So
and
basically, now that they've all met up and they know what's going on, they make sure that her daughter and her are going to be safe.
right. And the
So
funniest part of that scene to me though is when it's done, or they let her friend go. Her friend stops at the door and goes, "Fuck you, Marlo."
yeah, don't ever come here again. Don't. Oh, doesn't he say, "Don't take this the wrong way"? Don't
Yeah.
take this the wrong way, Marlo. Well, F you and don't ever
Yeah,
come back here
You,
again.
you need to find another place to stay.
Yeah.
so he says,
So they come up with the plan of giving the daughter to Russo to babysit, and they have Marlo call Langston and hook up a meeting. And Langston's like, "Where the hell have you been?" And she's like, "Those PIs that came looking for, um, I lost his name, Sapien or Supposian or whatever his name was, and they're threatening to kill me, and they're following me, and I don't know what to do." And he's like, "All right, calm down. Where can we meet?" And they pick like this bus yard to meet, and it's actually a setup where Reacher and everybody are there waiting for him to come and get there. And so before they do that, they drop the daughter off with Russo. And Russo's like, "What am I, an effing babysitter now?" And he's like, "I saw the way you were at the cemetery with Franz's son. I know you'll protect her. Will you please do this for me?" And he's like, "Yes, I will. But I went this morning and told my officer that I knew he was the one that squealed on you guys because no one else knew that you were going to Boston other than him. So I can't stay here. I'm going to go to my brother's house.
Yeah.
I'm
Hey,
going
Stevie.
Hey, how you doing? So, but I'll take her with me." And she gets in the car and he's like, "Don't worry, hon. We'll get to my brother's house and we'll watch some Adam Sandler movies." And just then, headlights turn on behind him, and he knows they're being followed. So then it skips back to the yard, and she's standing out in the middle of the bus yard waiting for Langston to pull in. And when Langston gets there, they're going to jump him. Well, just as Langston's getting there, Reacher's phone rings and it's Russo. And he's like, "They've got me. They're on me. They've got automatic weapons. I need your help. You need to get here now. I'm not going to be able to keep this girl safe." And Marlowe turns her head and yells, "What's going on?" And Langston's like, "Who the hell is she talking to?" "It's a trap! It's a trap!" And all hell breaks loose. So they start shooting at Marlowe, and Reacher comes out to save her. And Langston's like, "That's that big son of a bitch! Get him! I want his ass!" And go ahead, Jay. I'll let you take it.
Well, the scene with when he finds out it was basically his boss that narked on him. That scene right there, like I won't get too into it because people need to watch it. There's something about
Yeah.
it because that guy, I remember him most from The Sopranos. He was I can't remember who he played on The Sopranos, but he's the one that Vinny and them or Paulie and the nephew, I can't remember. They were chasing him through the woods when he was on his run. And I'll always remember that when they get him, he's in his little tracksuit and they're shooting him like this for some reason. And the dude's just overacting. But I remember that dude's face. And that's the part that I remember. But
But he had hair in The Sopranos, didn't he?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not Russo. His boss. You find out
Yeah.
his boss
Yeah.
was the one
Yeah, hold
who
on.
Boss was the one that narked on Reacher and got him set up. The guy that had the bag of money. But
Okay, yeah.
in a
And
minute,
then
we
threw
haven't
the
got to
desk
that
into
point
him,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah, we haven't quite got there yet, but yeah.
So
So Russo's in a car chase with
yeah,
automatic weapons being shot. They're at the bus yard with Langston, and Reacher tells them to go to get to Russo. And they're like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, "I'm not done here. I'm going to get Langston." So they take off to help Russo. Reacher's trying to take on Langston's crew, and
yeah,
he kills them all and gets Langston pinned to where he thought he had him. And the helicopter appears and starts shooting out of nowhere. And Reacher has to dive behind a bus, and Langston gets on the helicopter and get away. And
yeah,
then it pans to the chase with Russo.
yeah. So he gets two or three of those guys on the same bus,
Hmm.
and then the last guy, he's underneath the bus and he pulls that dude like that's straight out of a horror movie, dude. He
Yeah.
trips him, the guy falls face first, and he pulls him underneath the bus. But yeah, we get back to the chase scene, and I don't remember if it's because they're hitting a dead end or whatever. What?
A tractor
Construction, I
trailer
think.
pulled out in front of him and cut him
Right.
off, so he had to swerve into a non-road area that was more like a pull-off,
Yeah,
and it was a dead-end pull-off, so they were cornered.
yeah. So he gets Russo gets out of the car. He gets the daughter, the Marlowe's daughter, out of the car and has her hiding behind the tires. And he already knows. He already knows they're outgunned. Nobody's going to make it in time. So what he tells her is basically when I tell you to go, you run that direction. You don't look back. You just keep running. Tells her to go. He's shooting the guys, covering fire. He gets out from behind. He starts going towards them. He gets shot in the shoulder, I think, first, or the leg.
Yeah.
Then, he takes, I can't remember if there was 2 or 3 guys there.
Yeah. Well, there's 3 of them, but one of them runs away.
There you
And
go.
he kills the other 2, but in the process, he gets shot in the chest 3 times.
Yeah. So
And then the girl did what she wasn't supposed to do and stopped and turned around. And the third guy that was running
yeah.
got in front of her and said, "It's nothing personal, kid, but sometimes shit happens." And just as he says that,
Yeah. Final
he gets
destination.
nailed by Neely in the truck and
Yeah.
goes flying. And they save the little girl. But by the time they get to Russo, go ahead, Jay.
And this is the part that really got me. Like, this is the part that the tears fell a little bit. So you got Russo, who sacrificed himself, who was a good cop the entire time. Neely is the first one to run up on him. He holds out his hand to Neely, and Neely takes his hand.
And remember, Neely doesn't want to touch anybody.
Exactly.
She won't even shake Reacher's hand. She don't want to be touched.
When that happened, dude, like I was like, that's some powerful stuff. Like the writers of the show doing that. I really am hoping that in the Neely show they let us. They might not. It might just be a mystery. Maybe she's like me, dude. If I don't know you, don't. Well, I mean, not like me. If I don't know you, don't touch me. I don't care if you're attractive or anything. If I do not know who you are, please don't put your hands on me. I'll shake people's hands, but like, how some people like to pull you in and give you the pat on the back and stuff. I'm weird about people I don't know putting their hands on me. But I hope they show us. But man, that has got to be like the most powerful scene.
Yeah.
In that entire, like, so far for me, the entire show, it's that scene right there. And unfortunately, Russo doesn't make it. Russo dies.
He dies in Neely's arms.
Oh man, it was.
She put his head up on her shoulder or on her elbow, and was holding his hand and looking right into his eyes as he died. So for somebody who never wanted to touch or be touched, she pulled him in and was with him for his last breath.
Oh,
And that comes into play in the very next episode.
yeah. So we get to the next episode, and Reacher's bringing. Is that when was it Reacher that brings the food in, or is it O'Donnell? I can't remember. When they're sitting in the hotel room with Marlo and her daughter.
Oh, Reacher brings it in and dumps it on the bed, and she takes the only Clark bar.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious because he looks right at her and he's like, "She took the only Clark bar."
Yeah. They're
And
Dixon
then he's like, "Don't worry, honey, we're gonna protect you. We just have to kill a few more people first."
Yeah.
And everybody looks at Reacher like, "Dude, again?"
Yeah.
And the little girl's like, "What?"
Yeah.
And that's when O'Donnell walks in. He's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "We're gonna get to leave, but you guys got more people to kill first." And he's like, "Really, boss?"
Yeah. So we find out there's a person that Dixon knows from one of her undercover stints, one of her jobs out in Buffalo.
Yeah, he
An
saved her
older
life.
gentleman. Yeah, older gentleman saved her life, and that's where they're going to send Marlo and Jane. That's the daughter's name. That's where they're going to send them. And when they're leaving, this is kind of like they don't show it a whole lot with his own kids, but this is where you can tell O'Donnell really is like a good guy and probably a very good father. Just the way he talks to Jane and kind of
Shapes her hat
comfortable.
for her.
Yeah, like it's a nice little sentiment. But so like this is the penultimate episode. So after
her and Dixon and O'Donnell are saying goodbye to the woman and her kid.
Mhm.
And while that's going on, Reacher is going to Russo's boss.
Yes.
because Russo told him that he told his boss. So Neely's driving, and as Reacher's getting out of the car, Neely grabs Reacher's arm, which she doesn't usually grab, and she goes, "Last night, a wonderful man died in my arms. Whatever you do to this man, make him feel it." And
Yes.
Reacher just kind of like nods his head and gets out. Go
Oh,
ahead, Jay. I'll let you have the.
so he gets to Lieutenant Marsh,
Yep.
finds him at home,
Big bag of money on the table.
big bag of money. The dude's packing and everything, and he's behind his desk, and I can't remember if Reacher kicks it or if he
Well,
pushes.
first he takes the gun.
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
He takes his gun out and sits it on the edge of the desk because he's packing to get the hell out of here.
right.
And while he's packing, Reacher come in behind him and says, "Is that the price of a good man's life?" And he turns around and starts to reach for the gun. And Reacher's like, "If you think you can get to it, go ahead, but your odds aren't good." And he's like, "I didn't know they were going to kill him. I swear to God, I didn't know they were going to kill him. I just thought they were going to offer him money and that he would be smart and take the money." And Reacher's like, "You know that he was a good cop, and you knew he wouldn't take that money, and you knew damn well that he would die before he took that money." And the guy looks down at the gun, and Reacher's like, "Go ahead, go for it." And the guy goes for it, and Reacher kicks the desk
There it is.
and pins him up against the wall
Oh
and
yeah,
says, "You have two choices. You can either tell me what's everything you know and call the cops and surrender, because going to jail is better than dying, barely, or I kill you." And he's like, "I honest to God, I don't know, but so and so knows." And I can't remember the guy's name, sorry. And he's like, "We killed him last night." And he's like, "No, he's not dead. The guy you hit with the truck is in the emergency room at the hospital. It's been on the news. You can go talk to him and find out what the plans are." And then he was stupid and he went for the gun.
yeah, and then domed.
Yep.
So
Pop.
that's the end. That's the end of Marsh. That is the end of Marsh. Um,
And Reacher and Neely head to the hospital.
yep. Oh, this scene is kind of
Hmm.
the I don't want to say the funny thing, but if you remember, I talked before about him playing a character called Thad Castle in Blue Mountain State. In Blue Mountain State, one of the episodes was the whole football team was going to be drug tested, and one of the football players is talking about getting fake dicks and urine from other people, like clean urine, to take the drug test because apparently they watch you, so you can't cheat it. Thad's idea was for something called an oil change, which is basically you stick a catheter in you and draw out the bad piss, pump in the good piss. Hilarious show if you've never watched it, y'all. I'm telling you, like you watch Reacher and then you go see him act like he does as Thad Castle. It's amazing.
They did that exact same thing in a football movie called The Program.
Yeah,
They
that's
had a
probably
guy drain the urine out and inject it in, and it looked so painful. It's like, there ain't no way.
yeah, yeah. This was
Mr. Happy
probably
don't have a straw. Mr. Happy don't need no straw. Get the hell away
exactly.
from me with that straw.
Thi-
He's
This,
not thirsty.
yeah, this
That's
is
right.
kind of the opposite. They're not taking the piss out; they're pumping air in. So this dude is all kinds of messed up. He's all
Yep.
kinds of, like he got hit by a truck.
Yep.
So Reacher decides
Because he
we're
won't
gonna
tell him the truth.
won't tell him the truth. So he starts pumping his the balloon in the dude's bladder.
Yeah, he said, "I always wondered what would happen if you overinflate one of these."
Oh yeah.
And the guy's screaming bloody murder when he's
Oh
putting the air in there.
yeah.
That's a hard scene for me to watch because I'm scared to death of catheters. I don't want no damn straw in Mr. Happy
Mm-mm.
either.
Yeah, but
Nope.
props to the acting for that sniper in that scene because he
Uh-huh.
really made me feel the pain.
Oh yeah.
But he ends up I can't remember what
They
he tells
don't they
them.
don't do they oh, phew. He tells them what is going on with the new plans, but he doesn't know where exactly it's going to happen. And they know he's telling the truth because there's no way he could take that much pain.
Right.
And then so he pulled the catheter thing out, and he said, a bursted bladder would be suspicious, but an embolism after a car accident is normal. You killed a good man last night. This is his payback. And he takes a syringe and injects air into the IV tube, which causes the guy to have a heart attack and die. And then him and Neely walk out of the room, and they see a suspicious looking doctor with I don't remember why he was suspicious. It had something to do with him having a
Stethoscope.
stethoscope and a tag, and for some reason that to Neely was suspicious. And it was actually one of Langston's people on their way there to kill the guy before he could talk. So go ahead, Jay.
Yep. So then we get this fight sequence that it's Neely versus this dude. And
With an amputee saw.
yeah. So I'm trying to remember if Neely's fighting him and almost getting overpowered.
Neely's just about to die when
Yeah.
the drill turns off and you turn around and Reacher has the
Reacher's
cord in his
unplugged it.
hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
They get in a fight, and Reacher knocks the guy out, and he falls on the blade with his neck, and it severs his neck, and the guy bleeds to death. And Reacher was like, "Damn it, I wanted to interrogate him." So on the way out, they get another phone call from Langston, and he's like, they were talking, and I can't remember the exact conversation, which blows my mind that I don't at the moment, but I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, Langston basically tells him that him and his partner need to come immediately for a meeting, and he's like, "Well,
they
first
got
of all, I
Dixon and
don't have."
O'Donnell. They
Yeah,
found Dixon and O'Donnell.
I didn't get to that part yet.
Whoa, okay.
He's like, "Well, you and your partner need to come here now," and he's like, "First of all, I don't have a partner. Your guy killed her before I could get there and kill him." And he's like, "Well, you've killed so many of my people. I'm going to kill a couple of yours." And he's like, "Oh, bullshit." He's like, "No, we went to the hotel and we've got him here." And he's like, "So you come here on your own right now or I'm going to kill him." And he's like, two murders just happened in a hospital. Cops are all over, and you want me to drive right now? I'm sure I'll be followed, but I'd be happy to bring him. And he's like, "No, wait till tonight. Come tonight, but you better not screw me over or I'll kill both of them." So Neely's like, "Dude, he's got connections. He's going to find out that I wasn't killed." And he's like, "But this buys us enough time to get there and come up with a plan."
Okay. See, I thought that's what they were talking about on the phone. Was he's like you, and then he tells him you and your compatriot come meet us, and that's when he was like Neely's dead.
Yeah. Yep.
So, Reacher decides to go to the senator or call the senator and ask for
Calls.
a team.
Yeah. And they meet up at the zoo.
Yeah. And he's told Neely the plan, but he walks up to the facility by himself. And one of the things that this was the first thing before I even watched this season, Ed had told me about. So I want Ed to talk about this scene when he walks into the facility.
So they get to the facility and there's these kids there jamming their radio. And this dude is like, "Get away from here, you damn kids." And that gives Reacher an idea. So you go from there to Reacher calling and saying, "I'll be there." Okay. So he starts walking towards the gate, and this is the most perfect part. They start playing a song that's "Move aside and let the man come through, let the man come through." And Reacher's walking in slow motion as he's coming through the gate. And it's just so perfect. I absolutely love that scene with that music.
Name of
And
the
sure
episode too,
enough,
isn't it?
pardon?
I said I think it's the name of the episode too.
Yeah,
Man Come
it is.
Through or something like that.
It is. Yep. So they bring out Dixon and O'Donnell on gurneys so that he sees it's all real, and that's how that episode ends, is with that "Move aside and let the man come through."
Which, after hearing Eddie talk about it, when I finally got to see it, I was like, "Dude, you were right. That was a badass scene.
Oh,
That
it
was
was.
that was an awesome way to end that episode." So now we
It was
get to
perfection.
the finale.
Yep.
these finales just keep they just keep getting better and better. And we could spend a little bit of time on this one because we're 2 hours 15 minutes. We got about a good hour we could spend on
Ah,
this one.
good. We can quit skipping. We were going fast forward.
Yeah. So
Sit back, and I shall tell you a tale of episode. No, I'm sorry.
so since this was one of the ones that it's been a while since I've seen,
You want me to start it
and
then?
go ahead and start. My memory will kick in.
Did you want to do it? No.
No, I'm okay, man. I could
Okay.
not
All right.
recite it like you guys can.
All right. Cool. So episode 8 starts with Reacher being brought in to meet Langston face to face, and Langston takes a call and says, "Get Reacher ready, and I'll be there in a minute." Well, by getting ready, they meant that they were going to tie him up to a gurney and all that stuff. But Reacher, even though he's tied up, gets up, beats the hell out of all these guys, and he's getting ready to kill them all when Langston comes in and points a gun at Reacher and says, "Enough's enough, stop." And he's like, "If you kill me, you'll never find out where the missiles are." And he's like, "You're right, I can't kill you." And he turns his gun and he shoots O'Donnell in the leg. And Reacher's like, "Damn it, he's got me." So he's like, "Sit your ass down." So he sits down, and Langston starts punching Reacher, and of course it has no effect. And Reacher's basically laughing at him, and he's like, "What did you do with Swan?" And he's like, "Where's Swan? We know he's here." And he's like, "Oh, Swan? You want to meet Swan? I'll let you meet Swan." And he walks over and he pulls this jar out of a drawer. And here's an eyeball connected to the vein and a thumb. So they had used Swan's eye for the retina scan and the thumb for the thumbprint for the orders. Swan was dead, like Reacher said he was right from the beginning, which at that point, you could just see Reacher was just pissed. But before that happened, I forgot to mention that in the prior episode, he had taken one of those Brad clips and put it in his shoe. So he had like a little brad nail in his shoe. So while all this is going on, Langston goes out and he's going to prepare for everything. Reacher gets the thing out of his shoe, gets his cuffs off, starts trying to save everybody, and you hear music playing, and it's Neely. She's pretending to be the teenagers. And she's parked out in front of the gates playing the song. And the guy's like, "You damn kids, I told you to get away from here." She's like, "Just let me finish my beer, man, and I'll leave." And the guy opens the gate and she whips around with the gun, shoots and kills him, and she drives into the gate. So now she has access. So now she gets in to help Reacher. Reacher's beating the hell out of everybody. Um, the senator had sent 2 or 3 of his men parachuting in to give them armed gun support. So they had gun support, fire support. They have this big shootout and this big fight, but Langston manages to get O'Donnell and Dixon onto the chopper, and he's pulling away. And just as the chopper's pulling away, Reacher sees it and goes running after the chopper and has his Captain America moment where he jumps up, grabs onto the chopper, won't let go. He doesn't pull the chopper down like Captain America did, but he just hangs on to it. And it goes flying away, and Neely's like, "Oh shit, what is going to happen now?" and all that. So they go inside the chopper, and Langston is doing his bragging about all the stuff he's going to do, and he turns around and Reacher all of a sudden is there, and he's like, "How the did you get on there?" And so they kick Dixon's gurney so that she's going to fall, and Reacher has to dive and grab it. So Reacher's hanging on to Dixon's gurney. She's hanging off the chopper, strapped to the gurney, and this one of the henchmen comes up with a knife, or no, he has the brass knuckles from
Yeah.
O'Donnell, and starts beating on Reacher to try to get him to stop, and stabs Reacher in the shoulder, and Reacher just won't let go of the gurney. Well, somehow while all this is going on, Dixon finally manages to weasel her way loose, climbs up the gurney, grabs the knife, pulls it out of the guy's shoulder, and stabs the henchman so Reacher can pull her in. And now Langston is pissing his pants because his men are gone, and here he is with Reacher and Dixon and O'Donnell. And he's like, no, 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 this don't have to happen. No, this don't have to happen that way. I got money. I got money. And Reacher grabs him and pulls him right over to the opening. And if you remember, at the end of episode 4, he said, I want to throw you out of a helicopter. And he's like, no, 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 you need me. You need me. And Reacher says, you're assuming I need you. And in investigations, assumptions kill. And he pushes the dude out of the chopper. And you see him falling and falling. And the best part was they actually showed the impact with him. And his back like hits this broken tree and he like snaps into.
Yes.
And he's dead.
Yes.
So then Dixon goes to the chopper pilot with her gun and says, you're going to do everything we tell you to do or you're dead. So he has the coordinates to where they were going to meet up and exchange the missiles for the money for the bearer bonds. And he has the chopper. They have the chopper take them to that site, and they get there ahead of the AM guy, which we never really did know what his real name was. He had so many different ones. And when the AM guy gets there, he sees the chopper and he's like, good, Langston's here already. We can get this done. So they walk up and they're about to knock on the door and his buddy gets shot in the head. And the door opens and here's Reacher. And the guy is holding the bag of money and he's like, yeah, come on in. So they come in and the whole what's left of the 110 is standing there. And he's like, look, you guys don't understand. I'm a businessman. I don't kill people with guns. I sell guns. I could never be the guy to pull the trigger. Only an insane person could actually pull a trigger at another and you hear pop and you see this blood splurt out of the guy's side. And he's like, what? What? And he looks up and Reacher had just shot him in the stomach. And he just kind of stands there. And then all of a sudden, every member of the 110 empties their gun into this dude. He takes easily 30 rounds, pow, 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 and he falls dead. So then they go out into the barn where they had tied up the scientist who was in charge of putting the chips in the missiles and the pilot of the helicopter where they had them tied up. And they're like, well, what do we do with them? And they're like, well, just let them go. They're not important. So they're like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And they let them get in the helicopter. Well, that's when the SWAT team guys come in and they see what's going on because they were the ones that were sent by the senator and they were helping them out earlier. And as the chopper's leaving, you see Neely in the background loading one of the missiles into the missile launcher. And she steps outside and Reacher says, wait until they're over the river. And you see the chopper flying away and he's like, all right, Neely, I think it's time. And she shoots and the missile misses. And Reacher's like, wait for it. And the missile turns around, hits the chopper, blows it up, and it crashes into the ocean. And you think it's done. But just then you hear the cocking of guns. And Reacher and them turn around and like, you got to be kidding. And the 3 SWAT men that the senator had sent to help them now have their guns pointed at them. And they said, the senator doesn't like loose ends. So we have to finish you off. It's been the plan the whole time. And Reacher was holding the bearer bonds and he's like, I never trust politicians, so I made a call of my own. And here comes his brother's team from the FBI pulling in with all of their guns. And they come in and the 3 immediately give up and get down on their knees. And Reacher says, did you get the senator yet? And his brother's buddy, Reacher's brother's buddy, says, I thought you'd like the honors. So they grab the cell phone out of one of the SWAT guys' pockets and they call. And just like Langston had done, the senator's like, is it over? And Reacher's like, not yet, but it's about to be. And he nods his head. And the head of the FBI says, go on in. And this whole swarm of agents just starts pouring into the senator's office. And Reacher holds the phone back out to the SWAT team so they can hear the guy get arrested. So at that point, they knew they were screwed. They knew it was all over and done with. So as they're cuffing those three guys, Reacher starts walking away, and I can't remember the guy's name. I wish I did. But Reacher's brother's partner says, "Hey, where's the money?" And Reacher's like, "What money? I don't know what you're talking about." And he's got the suitcase with the bearer bonds. And the bearer bonds had the $60 million in it that they were talking about throughout the whole show. So the next scene is they're walking into a diner the next morning, all beat up, all bloodied, and they're doing the slow motion stud walk like they do in movies. And they sit down at a table, and the nurse or the waitress says, "Have a bad evening." And Reacher looks up. "I've had worse." I mean, they're all just beat the hell out of. And he sits the bearer bonds down beside. And do you want to go from here? Do you remember the rest?
I only really remember the campfire scene at the end.
All right. So at the table, they're discussing who's going to be in charge of the money, and Reacher's like, "Well, I don't want to be in charge of it." And O'Donnell's like, "Oh, sure, the one guy that has nothing doesn't want to be in charge of the money." Says, "Sorry, boss, you're in charge of the money. You decide where it goes. You do what you need to do with it." So the first thing he does is stand up and ask Neely, "Do you have a quarter?" And she's like, "You've got $60 million at your feet, and you're asking me for a quarter?" And he goes, "Jukeboxes don't take bearer bonds," and he does it in the Reacher voice.
Open
So
up a
he
new
goes,
tab.
"Pardon?"
Open up a new tab.
Yeah. So he puts the quarter in the jukebox and the music starts playing. And the next thing you know, you start seeing like these little side happenings going on. And one of them was Neely's dad has been dying and needed 24-hour help. And a nurse walks in and says, "Don't worry, sir, you're taken care of for the rest of your life. I'm here to be your nurse." And then it shows Franz's wife. She has a envelope in her mailbox that says "from the 1/10," and she opens it and it's a check. They don't show you the amount. And then it goes to I don't remember the dog part right off the top of my head. But somebody they he donated a big
Yeah,
wad of
in
the money
Swan's
to a
name.
Swan's portion
Oh
of the
yeah, it
money
was
went to,
Swan's
yeah.
dog. That's right. Swan's dog that died. It was the people who he had donated it to a shelter, and they had a big wad of money. And am I missing anybody? It seems like
The
there's one
girlfriend.
I'm missing.
The
Pardon
girlfriend
me?
drove off in the car. The girlfriend
Oh,
of
that's right. That's right.
Sanchez or was
Yep.
and the
Sanchez's
sister.
girlfriend that they met at that bar goes driving off in this sports car and with her wad of money.
And
And then
then the
they're sitting
sister.
there. Yep. And then the sister. Oh, and Russo's brother for his
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
He Russo's brother's on the phone. He's like, "I just got checks for millions of dollars in my kid's name. Where's it come from?" And he's like, "It couldn't have been my brother. He didn't have that kind of money." So it was just like these little side scenes that was showing you what Reacher was doing with the money. And then they're all sitting around a campfire like they were during that one flashback, except now there's only four of them. And Neely's like, "Well, what did you do with that money, boss?" And he tells her that her dad will never need anything again. And he said, "And plus, there is plenty more in there for you to do whatever you need to do." And then O'Donnell says, "And what about me, big man? What did the world's scariest Santa Claus put under my tree?" And Reacher says, I didn't give you anything, but your kids are set for life. I put a trust in their name. They can go to any private school, college, whatever they want. They're set for the rest of their life. So you only need to take the sleazy adjacent jobs that you want to take."
Yeah.
And then he turned to Dixon and says, "And you, forget about your job. You got your own LLC. I opened an LLC under your name. You're going to be in the boss. You're in charge of it, yada, yada, yada." And they're all just like jaw dropped. And then they're like, "Well, what about you, big guy? What did you get?" And he's like, "Well, I could use a new toothbrush." And they start laughing. And then they're like, "You're serious? You didn't keep any of it?" And he's like, I got everything I need." And they said, "We need to take another picture." So they reenact the 110 picture taking scene around the campfire with just the four of them. And again, Reacher's like, "I'll take the picture." And she's like, "No, you're not taking the picture." And they set a camera and they take their picture and they go about their separate ways. And I think, does it go to the bus scene after that? I don't remember anything else after that.
I think
Or
it is the bus scene.
So then it pans to the bus scene, and Reacher's coming out of the bus yard, and Neely's there. And she's like, "What'd you get yourself, boss?" Because they made him. Oh, no, 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 no. First, it's the hotel, and he's in bed, and
Oh yeah.
O'Donnell's waiting for Dixon, and Dixon comes in, and she's like, "I got you something," and she hands him a bag, and it was a new toothbrush, and she's like, "Now get yourself something you really need
There you
because
go.
you got your new toothbrush," and then of course, but before I leave, we need to bang one more time. So they bang one more time, which why not at this
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
So then Neely meets Reacher at the bus yard, and she's like, "Well, what'd you get, boss?" And he's like, "I got myself a whole year's pass on the bus to go wherever I want in the country." And she's like, "With all that money, all you did was buy yourself a bus pass?" And he's like, "It's freedom. I can do what I want, where I want, and go whenever I want." And they have this really deep conversation where she's like, "I don't like our arrangement of only seeing each other every couple of years." And she's like, "You called us soldiers, you've called us friends, but you know we're more than that, right?" And Reacher just looks at her and kind of nods, and they do their little wave thing where they don't touch. And Reacher gets on the bus and he sits down, and this old man across from him, he's like, "Where are you headed?" And Reacher's like, "I don't know." And he says, "Well, why were you in town?" And he's like, "I was seeing family." And he looks out the window, and the bus drives away, and season 2 is history.
Oh
It's a
man.
great ending.
Really is. I can't wait to rewatch it.
Okay, yeah, me too. I've only seen it like 12 times.
Yeah.
I want to watch all 3 seasons in a row.
Dude, that's what I'm gonna end up doing until season 4 comes. And
Yep,
once they
either
say
that or
like, hey,
Neely.
season
Yep.
4 is coming here, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, I need to binge all the seasons again.
I wonder if they have a release date on the Neely show yet. Because I'm really hopeful that she'll come out this fall, and then he'll be next winter. Because otherwise, if she comes out next winter, that means Reacher 4 won't be out for 2 years. Because that's what they did with between season 1 and 2. It was like 2 years.
Well, apparently, filming on Neely commenced in Toronto in February 2025.
Yeah, that was that TikTok video I talked about earlier.
Yeah, I don't see anything about when.
Okay. Well, they're probably just going to have her come out at Reacher's time then, and then postpone season 4. But I was kind of hoping that they would do her in the fall and him in the spring, and then we wouldn't have to wait so long. But
What if they
I,
do it in tandem?
that might be crazily confusing.
No,
Unless
yeah,
the
that
two
it wouldn't
stories
be
are
fiscal,
intertwined. Yeah.
right? But it also wouldn't make sense for money either,
No, it
for
wouldn't.
Amazon subscriptions and everything
2026.
else.
Oh, so she ain't coming out till 2026?
Yeah, 2026.
So she's going to be the next winter release. So season 4 of Reacher, does it say?
Let's see.
Don't say 27.
Hmm.
Oh, I gotta
What if
find.
what if her show comes out at the beginning of the year, 26, and then his comes out at the end of the year?
Yeah, that'd be all right, but that still means we got 9 months with nothing.
It's less than a year.
That gives me time to rewatch them all 12 more times.
I need to start doing
Once a
the
month.
same too. I really also need to get back on Jack Ryan because I really enjoyed John Krasinski and Jack Ryan, and apparently there was talks of having those two cross over in something.
Is that one
Yeah,
pretty good?
there's supposed to be another movie of his coming out. I think that's what Sean said. There was another Ryan movie coming out. But I don't know when season 4 of Reacher is supposed to be. But I do know that they've already signed through season 5, so they're going to do at least 2 more. And the head of Amazon said that they plan on keeping doing Reacher as long as Alan will keep playing the role. So that sounds promising.
Well, technically they could do 30 seasons.
I don't know if he could do that at the age of 70, but it'd be fun to watch.
I'm just saying, source material anyways.
But one of the books, and this is one of the things that Nope and I were talking about, is one of the Reacher books is about a serial killer who is out to kill every woman that was associated with Reacher's past. And these stories, every season, there's been a woman. There was Roscoe, and then there was Dixon, and now there was Duffy in season 3. And it's like, if they're lining these women up to have them killed off, that would suck. I would hate to see Roscoe get killed off. I loved her. Dixon, it wouldn't hurt me too bad, but she
See,
kind of annoyed me.
it's looking like 2026 for season 4.
So they're both going to come out next year.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Well, I guess I can live with that. It just sucks because the older you get, instead of saying, I can't wait till next year, you start thinking, God, I hope I'm around for the next season. You guys are still young, but I've already tipped that half-century mark.
It's not that far away from me.
Yeah. It's in my rearview mirror. So there you go. That's what Dan and I were talking about one night on his show. Was we're talking about, phase 6 and 7, and we're getting to the point of, will I be around when they get to phase 7?
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of hoping that this DC stuff takes off, man. I don't want to be 60 or 70 before we might get a Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Right. 2 or 3 Supermans from now.
Yeah.
Well, and like with Spider-Man, I mean, if they're going to wait like 3-4 years in between, and the Batman is going to be 5 years between, it's like, come on, guys. I want to see this stuff before I'm dead.
Dude, as much as I hope that the trilogy thing with the Batman is going to happen, not at the rate they're doing it, unless they're filming the next movie back to back and releasing it like the year after.
They might be.
Yeah,
That stupid writer's strike threw everything off, I think. Would you say no?
I was just about to say, hopefully they aren't like prolonging it to try and let Pattinson get a little bit older to fit whatever DCU Batman they're trying to do.
Oh God, I hope not.
Who knows?
I hope not.
I still think that they could still have a 35-year-old Batman in the DCU because Damien's only supposed to be like 14, maybe.
Right.
You could still have had him at 20 years old and him be 34. Like,
yeah.
Pattinson's good for his own universe. I don't want to see Pattinson in the DCU either. I think his Batman needs to stay the Elseworlds thing, but
I totally agree because I like it in the real world setting where there's no super powered villains or anything, and it's a real detective type show. That's what always drew me to Batman.
I still think that's for right now. It's not gonna have like the magical and fantastical stuff. I think that's just for now. I think we're gonna be getting someone in that realm where there'd be like Mr. Freeze. Well, I'm talking about the Batman.
Oh,
like getting
I hope not.
Mr.
We'll
Freeze or something.
I've
like
heard
that.
about Freeze being in the next Pattinson stuff.
I had heard that they were going to do a new version of the Joker where he doesn't have any makeup.
Man,
because there was a cut scene from the first movie where he met him, where he's got the scars and everything, but he's not got the white face and all that stuff.
I like that actor, but that's another case of I do not like that Joker design. Like, watching the cutscene, not a fan of the design.
Right.
Well, I'll be honest with you. When I first saw the design for the Riddler, I thought it was kind of lame. But then when I saw it, it was perfect. I mean, they did a great job with it. So I'm going to stay optimistic.
Yeah.
I just hope they don't go into the, here comes Superman and here comes Wonder Woman. And like, no, don't do that here. Keep this about Gotham and get yourself a DCU Batman like Alan Richardson.
Yeah.
And let him do his thing. That's what I'm hoping anyway.
Yeah, I mean, again, as much as I'd love it to be him, I just, at this point, I don't know. I don't know what they're going for because, again, we have a brand new Superman, younger guy. Then we have most of the Lanterns except for John are older people. Like, so I don't know what age they're going for with some of these heroes. Like, it's kind of a crapshoot. I didn't expect Guy Gardner, Nathan Fillion to be Guy Gardner. I didn't know they were going that far in age with some of these folks.
How old is Gunn?
The Gun's got to be close to 60, I think.
Yeah.
So they
I think
can't
so.
be putting it off too much, you wouldn't think. But who knows?
Yeah, he's 58. So, yeah, and I don't know. I was kind of, some of the other cast. I'm like, what? They're doing something because there's got to be a reason to make your Superman so young when most of the Justice League is kind of older people. But we'll see. We got, man, it's just about to be April. Those 3 months left.
Yeah, but it was just yesterday. You were saying it was 6 months.
I
It
know.
seems like you did that live trailer just a couple weeks ago, dude, and it was before Christmas.
I know.
So as fast as time goes. Now that I've gotten to the age where I'm at, I'm in no hurry to rush things. It can take its time and get there.
Oh, that's true. It's just
Enjoy every day while you can and get yourself hyped up for it. But I'll tell you, this last week was a really long week waiting for that Reacher finale for season 3.
like I
Because
said.
I was so pumped up for that poly
Dude,
fight.
had the benefit of I was only a couple days away when I watched episode 7 of that,
Yeah.
so I didn't have to wait years long.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. Nope was bragging about that last night. Yeah. But now y'all with me and we get to wait a whole year together for the next one.
Shoot, maybe I can tackle something else on the list.
Yeah, finished Daredevil, and I was going to watch that vampire thing because Jenna wanted to talk to me about Dracula. But when I found out they're 90 minutes each, I don't know when I'm going to squeeze that in.
What is it?
It's a Dracula series on Netflix. It's just called Dracula, and it came out in 2020. And she said she really liked the first episode, but wanted to talk to me about it because I like horror. So I promised her that I'd watch it when we were done with Reacher. So if we're going to take a week off for Reacher season 3, I might try to watch it this week since it's only 3 episodes or
Yeah, it's only 3.
it's only 3 episodes, but they're like 95 minutes. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like 6 episodes.
There's
But
another one that we started watching today, horror flick on Netflix called Cassandra. It's like one of those foreign ones that they dubbed in English and all that. It's about
never heard of that one.
It's a smart house, okay, that
Ooh.
kind of goes crazy, I'm guessing. We only watched the first episode so far, but it
See, now that tickles
seems
the
very
techie.
interesting.
That tickles the techie in me. That could be cool.
Yeah, it seems good so far. Like, I'm excited to keep watching it.
Cool.
And it's another limited series too, so it's not like something that long
And
investment.
And if you don't IM it to me in a half an hour, I'll be like, what the hell was the name of that show Nope wanted me to watch? What was the name? I forgot already.
Cassandra.
Cassandra.
Yeah, it looks like it might be German.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Anybody else out in chat watching anything good? Any good horror? Any good action?
Into the oldest smart home in Germany.
Which, how old could that be? Smart homes aren't that old.
Well,
you know what I think of when I think of smart home? I don't know if you guys ever watched any of that. The Sci-Fi Channel had a show called Eureka.
Oh, love Eureka and
I
Warehouse
loved
13.
Eureka. Oh, I loved both of those. Yep.
There was a Disney Channel one too with Katie Seagal was the house. It was.
I haven't seen that one.
What was the name of that one? Was it the Smart House?
I think it was just called Smart House.
I haven't even heard of that one. Well, it looks like we made our 3-hour goal for today, Jay.
Yep. Just Smart House. Dude, Katie Seagal still looks good. I don't care.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We did. Man, I got to say, overall thoughts for this episode. I've heard some people say that while still good, they thought this has been the weakest of the 3 seasons so far.
Season 2?
Yeah. I think I also have the added benefit of not reading the books because the main complaint that people had was that Reacher doesn't do teams in the books. It's just Reachers alone. And I'm like, well, for me personally, this season was just as good as the first. I really can't rank them because while they keep getting better, I can't say that I like one more than the other. Like that's just me though. Like out of season 1 and 2 talking about, they both been phenomenal. Like I said earlier, I started rewatching season 2. Thank you. Rewatching season 2, and I don't know if it's because I watched 1, 2, and part of 3 within a couple of days, but I was catching stuff on the rewatch. And there are certain scenes where I was like, wait a minute, I don't even remember this because I got the whole series jumbled up in my brain. So I'm glad Ed had a great timeline we could follow with a lot of this, because this was basically the Ed show tonight with guest star me and Nope. So did a fantastic job though.
Well, thank you. When you obsess over something and watch it so many times, you don't really need to take notes. You can just kind of babble on.
Yeah.
The
Yeah, I feel like
coolest thing about Reacher for me is it's one show that my wife actually enjoys watching with me. She wouldn't watch it 12 times, but she watched each one with me once. And so that was kind of cool. It was fun watching the season 3 finale with her together. Because this was the first time that we watched the finale when it was live, because we binged the other ones because they were already released. Because I came in late to the Reacher thing because Dan turned me onto it like halfway through season 2, and I wasn't about to start in season 2, so I started season 1 and got the benefit of binging 1 and 2 together, and then I was like, damn, when is 3?
Yep.
If you haven't watched Reacher, I could not recommend it more highly. It is the best series I think I've ever watched. And before I said that, I would have said House MD. And that was one thing I want to mention just briefly. The ending of season 3, that scene with the motorcycle, that reminded me so much of the series finale of House, when House and Wilson drove off on their motorcycles.
Yeah.
You remember that? Did you watch House, either one of you?
I haven't finished it. I'm still running through the first season on that one.
Oh, you're only on season 1.
Right.
There's like 8 of those, dude. You got some watching to do. And the
That's
best part about House is there's like 24 episodes a season.
right. Well, that was the big reason why I went to the ad free and paid that extra few dollars for Amazon, because they started with the ads, and that's right about the time I started watching House. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Dude,
No way.
you are all set until next Reacher, because it's going to take you that long to get 8 seasons of House.
Right.
Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll watch House again for the 50th time.
There you go. Find a longer show.
Jeez.
Or Game of Thrones. Did you ever watch Game of Thrones?
I tried it, but it's not my thing. I'm not into like the whole King Arthur Knights of the Round Table kind of thing.
It's nothing, actually. I feel like the first season is very slow because my lady couldn't get into it either, and she's all about action and stuff, but there's a lot of dialogue with that. So if you're not into like a lot of dialogue or like so many different characters, that's what I find that a bunch of people gripe about that one.
I also heard that it was like basically soft porn and incestuous and all that, and I'm not into that stuff.
No,
I'm all for a gratuitous boob once in a while, hell
Right.
yeah, but I don't want to see incest and rape, and I'm not into that stuff.
Yeah,
I
no,
heard there was a lot of that in there. And plus,
Incest,
with my wife here, I'm not gonna. I want to try to find something she'll watch, and she sure as
Right.
hell ain't gonna watch that.
Yeah, but there's a lot of murder and shit in that, and it's actually not even too far off from actual history, too. Apparently,
How many seasons are there of that?
8.
I think,
But
yeah.
the last 2 get shorter than the rest of them too, though, because that's I think season 6 is they were current or didn't pass up the books at that point. There was still all of his books, like 5 books I think was out, and they covered that in 6 seasons, and then went off for the
Yeah.
7th and 8th.
Well, my goal for this week is to watch that Dracula show because Jenna asked me to, and to get caught up on Daredevil. That way, so next Saturday, if Jenna wants to pop on for a minute, we can talk Dracula, or we can catch up on Daredevil, or whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah.
And then I've only seen season 3 of Reacher twice, so I can't quite act it out yet. So I'm gonna have to watch that at least 2 more times before we do that episode.
Yeah.
But at least y'all are on board with me on that one. Bless you,
Oh,
sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, we take a week off. That'll also give us some time to rewatch it and being able to have Sean on because again, Sean's a big fan. He and I actually started watching it when it first came out, and like I said, just fell off it. Not because it wasn't interesting, just got busy, forgot about it, and was watching other things. And glad I
Yeah.
got back into it though because it's an awesome show. So
Yep. If you're not watching Reacher, I can't recommend it more. Give it a try.
at
Just
least the
give it a
first
try.
season, at least the first season.
Yeah.
If it doesn't hook you by the second episode of the
I,
first season,
I can already tell you what's going to happen. You're going to turn it on. You're going to say, yeah, whatever. And then where they end season 1, you're going to be like, well, I'll try season 2. Or, I mean, episode 2. And then by the time you're at the done episode 3, well, okay, well, I'll try one more. And it's going to be 5 a.m. It happened to me. It happened to Nope. None of us planned on staying up all night and watching it in one day, but we both did it. And I laughed so hard when you told me that last night. I'm like, that's the same thing happened to me. I was like, I'll watch the first one just for Dan. And then I was like, okay, I'll watch one more. And then I was like, okay, one more. And then I looked at the clock. I'm like, I can do one more. Yeah, that was a long
Yeah, it
night.
was just a good thing I didn't have to work the next day because it would have been bad. I've been just zombified all day.
when I finally got to sit down and watch Superman and Lois,
Oh,
I said the same thing. I'm only going to watch an episode or two. Now, this is back when I was still working for my other job where I worked overnight, like my frozen food job. I worked overnight. Next thing I knew, it was 10 or 11 in the afternoon, and I had already been up the night before. Like, I spent the whole night. So I usually had to wake up about 6 or 7 to start getting ready, but I hadn't slept just from watching that. So by the time I got slept, I got about 6 hours of sleep, and then had a truck and had to stock and stuff like that. And my brain was just fixated on getting home and finishing up season 2. So some of these shows, man, they're dangerous if you got to leave for work the next day.
I still thank you for the Superman and Lois because I would have never watched that.
Oh man, it's so
And
good.
I ended up absolutely loving it. The only other Superman show I ever liked was Lois and Clark. And it turned me off so bad the way they ended it. And it's just because it got canceled. Because they ended it on a cliffhanger. And my favorite episode is still when that dude came back in time and asked Lois how galactically stupid she is. And he does this right in front of her. I'm Clark Kent. I'm Superman. I'm Clark Kent. How's Superman? How galactically stupid are you, woman? And I was rolling because that was a joke that I had always made about Superman is how could a pair of glasses hide that from everybody? And I was laughing. And the best part is the guy that played that was one of the guys that was in a soap opera that my mother was addicted to. So that made it even funnier to me. It was called Santa Barbara.
Oh god.
And when I would be home during the summer, if it was bad weather, I was forced to watch it with her. So I knew the guy from Santa Barbara, and I kind of liked him because he was a jerk. And I like those kind of characters that are funny but yet a jerk. And that's what he was in Superman too. What was his character's name? I can't
Oh,
remember. I'm sure you know it. But he came back from time knowing who Superman was. And just it was so great because I've been saying that for my entire lifetime. How stupid you got to be to not recognize someone over a pair of glasses.
Right.
And that's exactly what he did. How galactically stupid are you? And I was rolling. I saved that. I clipped it. I've got that to watch when I'm depressed. I love it.
hold on.
Smallville, I really want to try to give it a try because Jay recommends it so highly, but the thought of a Superman show without Superman, it doesn't seem like something I would enjoy.
Oh man, seeing him gain his powers, get different powers. Yeah, the final episode was great, but you still never got to see him in the suit. But taking that journey from the first episode to that last episode, though, that last episode is so freaking emotional with things that happen. Him getting the suit, who hands him the suit. It's it's just one of those shows, man. I felt it's CW cheese like all the way, but it was just a
How
show. I
many
got
seasons and how many
oh, God,
episodes per?
10
seasons?
seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 seasons. Episodes per is probably a lot. I think this is back, regular TV, so there's like 20 something episodes
So
per
you're
season.
talking about 200 episodes? I'm
Probably.
over 50, dude. I'll be dead before I get halfway through it.
You get halfway through it, by that time Reacher's back.
That's true. That's very true.
And it's something new.
That's true too. I'll
Yeah.
give it a try because I wasn't
217.
going to give Superman and Lois a try, and when I finally did, I got hooked. So we'll see.
And for anybody else out there, and this includes Ed, if you're going to watch Smallville, just know there are some duds. I mean, it's like Nope just said, 217 episodes.
Yeah.
There's going to be some duds. But
First season's pretty solid all the way through.
there's episodes that even when they're not the best, there's things that they plant in those episodes that they bring back like three seasons later. Like it's a lot of seed planting in all the seasons for payoffs.
Is that the one where Bo Duke is his dad?
Yes. Yes,
Oh,
there is a Tom Wopat cameo.
Are you serious?
Yep, a couple of times.
Do they go yeehaw and jump a car? Because then I'll watch it.
I know they go driving in a car. I remember that he pulls up to the farm in a muscle car, and like
If it's a Dodge, I'll die.
oh man, that part I can't remember. I just know that he's like a senator. Tom Wopat's character is a senator.
That would be so epic if it would be a freaking Challenger or Charger. That would be so epic. Yes, Sean. Blah
What's
blah
up?
blah. Reacher
What's
is
up,
great.
Sean? But it's not only that. They got Margot Kidder was in some episodes. Christopher Reeve was in some episodes. Like some of the guest stars they had. Dean Cain was a guest star one
Okay,
season.
now Dean Cain, you got my
Reacher was even
attention.
in it.
Yeah, he was Aquaman.
Yeah, I saw him in that.
Ever.
I saw him in that ridiculous orange and
The
green.
actor they got to play Flash, but he really played the teenage angst really well.
Kyle Gardner.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's literally the name of the actor.
Gallner. Kyle Gallner.
Still.
Yeah.
Still. All right, I gotta get back to cooking.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's random. That's how it goes.
That's all right.
Yeah, dude. They're just and trust me. To me, Serinda Swan is very good looking now, but her playing Zatanna for a couple episodes, let's go, dude. She's
Have
Are you
you
so
seen
talking
a
about
picture?
Dixon?
yes.
She's
She
hot
looks,
as
she looks
Sedana.
good. Yeah, she looks good with some fishnets.
But I'm sorry, in Reacher, she did nothing for me. I wasn't attracted to her at all.
That's
She
okay.
annoyed me, actually.
Eyebrows didn't bother me too much.
I did end up liking Duffy. I didn't think I was gonna like her at first, but I did like Duffy. But I still think that Roscoe's been the best one so far. I love Roscoe. I love Roscoe. I love Finley, and the chemistry between them three is still hasn't been matched.
It's true.
The action in season 3 has been my favorite. The fights in season 3 have been my favorite, but I don't know if I'm saying that because it's better or if it was just because I had watched the other one so many times and this was new. So it was exciting to see something new. So after I've watched them 85 times, I'll let you know which season I like best.
Yes, and Sean, I already told folks here we're taking a break from Reacher next week. We're still gonna have a show, but it's gonna be more comic oriented. I agree there too.
You got your hand hit by propane? What?
Yeah, can't remember
Damn,
exactly
dude.
what happened.
Hope
But
you're all right.
yeah, he's fine. He's fine. This happened the other night.
He's
It's
fine.
fine. This
Rub
happened the
some
other
dirt
night.
in it.
Yeah, yeah. This happened the other night. If hand didn't fall off by now, it's not gonna fall off. You're okay.
He's
I,
typing.
I have like no sexual attraction to Neely, but I love Neely. Like Jay said, she could be my best friend, and I would hang out. The woman lives on cereal, and
Mm-hmm.
she's got smart ass wit, crackerjack jokes, smarter than hell. Her and I would get along great.
Yeah, and I really liked her in Swamp Thing too.
Will you
But,
stop bringing that up? I can't find it anywhere. I'm still stuck on episode 3.
dude, I'm gonna end up buying it somewhere. I'm gonna have
Rip the
to.
rug out from you.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to just buy it because I literally watched it the day before when you were like, "Hey, they took it off." Like I had just finished it again the day before. So
And I think I
Timing
was
is
going to go back
everything.
through and watch it again, and it wasn't there.
damn,
I was like,
I don't know why they don't just put it on Max already. I don't know what the deal is with that, but
Maybe I can find it
licenses.
where you read your comic books. Nefarious places, as you put it.
I'm not for pirating stuff. I usually end up buying stuff anyway.
Well, no,
But
hang on. Pirating means that you're downloading it and selling it. You're not doing that.
okay,
You're just watching it.
I'm watching it.
And as far as I'm concerned, the amount of money that you've spent on comics and movies, if you're just watching it and not trying to burn copies and sell it, you're fine.
Okay, well then.
Oh, some people takes it apart.
Oh yeah, the
Damn.
yeah, because Sean shouldn't be near chemicals at all.
Should he be near forklifts?
Probably not. Probably
Not
not.
if he's like you and I. Let's see if we can get it on 2 wheels.
But I remember back in the day being able to find stuff like that easier. Like if you missed a TV show or like Netflix took off All Hail King Julian, we can't find it anywhere. That's what she used to watch to go to bed. We just have that playing in the background while she was sleeping. You used to be able to go, oh well, can't find it here. Let me find it. And now it's like, man, harder and
Are
harder to find
are
stuff
you
like
wanting
that.
to cut off, or can we go into funny personal story time?
We got about 20 minutes.
So my home I grew up in, I lost my dad at a young age. The garage was made out of it was brick. It was the block, cinder block, and it was starting to curve like it was going to cave in a little bit. So we needed to dig the dirt out on the outside wall, and I reinforced it with some steel beams. Well, these fools were dumb enough to let me rent a bobcat. And this is the guy that does donuts in the snow, in rear-wheel drive Transams just to see how fast I can get spinning. So I get this thing, and first of all, my buddy's like, "I'll get a truck and we'll put it up on a ramp." He brings a frickin' Ford Ranger with like a 20-foot long trailer. I'm like, I don't know about this, Don. I don't know if this is a good idea. It'll be fine. Okay. So Don's like, do you want to drive it up on the trailer? No, I'm not driving the Bobcat on your trailer connected to your truck. That's not going to happen. So he starts pulling onto it. Now, here's the truck, here's the trailer. The Bobcat's coming on. As he's driving, this little Ranger starts going up in the air. All of a sudden, the trailer and the Ranger are getting like this, and the back tires are coming off the ground, and he's only like a third of the way up. His little brother yells, "Put it in reverse and get off of there." And I'm like, "No, just keep going, but go slow." And he goes slow, and it goes, and it comes down. I'm like, okay, we got it on the trailer. We tie it up, get it all chained down. We're driving back to our house with it. I smell something. I'm like, "Dude, you better downshift." "What?" I'm like, you're burning. "What?" "You're burning gears on this thing. Downshift." "Oh my God, I smell it too." So we ended up, because it was a stick, and he's terrible with sticks. He blew out clutches in every vehicle the dude ever owned. So he downshifted, got it home, got it into the thing, and now he's like, "Now just drive it off." I'm like, "No, don't just drive it off. I watched what was happening when you were loading it. If you just drive it off, your truck's gonna go boing, 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 boing." So we put it up to a hill, and we brace the edge of the trailer into the hill so it can't move. And I drove it off. Well, then it was Ed's turn to be stupid, because I'm on the Bobcat. I'm like, "Oh, this is fun, spinning it around and getting the dirt." I'm like, "I wonder if I can pop a wheelie." And Donnie's like, "You want to do what?" I'm like, "I can pop a wheelie. I can pop a wheelie on this thing." The next thing you know, I'm upside down in a Bobcat. Thank God the Bobcat has the roll bars, but I'm upside down. Well, how are we going to get it rolled back over? My buddy Don, "Let's back the trailer up into it and push it over." "Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, let's do that." So he backs the trailer on a freaking Ford Ranger. That was a stick shift, 4-cylinder, wasn't even a 6. Backs his trailer up into this thing, gets it up underneath, keeps pushing so it stands up. The next thing you know, I look over and his Ford Ranger is on his front tires at like a 45-degree angle. The Bobcat is at a 45-degree angle, and I'm sitting here trying to do geometry in my head as to which angle is going to break first. We finally got it over, and guess what happened? It went over, and it went over, and it went over, and it rolled down the hill.
Oh,
And
God.
I'm like, if this thing still works, I got in, started right up, and I'll be son of a bitch. I couldn't get it up the hill. So stupid idea number 12. Let's hook a winch up to it because Donnie's brother has a Jeep. Just a Wrangler, not a big Jeep. Let's hook a winch up to it and pull it up the hill. So the next thing you know, there's a Jeep coming down the hill because it can't pull the Bobcat up the hill. So finally we're like, time out, let's just stop and think this through. And I was able to take a long way around in the Bobcat and come back around the other way to where it was a lighter slope. And I just got to where I started digging, son of a bitch ran out of gas.
Oh.
And we hadn't even used it yet. So we had to get back in the truck, go to town, get more diesel, bring it back, fill the thing up. We did actually end up digging up the dirt finally. And we braced the wall and ended up building a little lean-to on the house to park like the mower and stuff in. But oh my God, I'll never forget that Bobcat. And then there was a time that he needed me to drive his truck home for him because he was going to have a company vehicle. And at the time, my truck was a 5-speed and his was a 4. But I never used the stupid parking brake. I always just left it in reverse unless I was up on a hill. Well, I wasn't thinking. I got in his truck and it was already in reverse. So I'm thinking, cool, forgot about the parking brake. I'm like, why am I tacking this thing so hard? But I got it to move and I got it going and I'm going. I'm like, God, this thing is tacking hard. And I get on the freeway and I'm only doing like 55 and I'm in 4th and I'm like, what the hell? Oh my God, the brake. And I rolled down the window and you could smell belt burning.
Oh,
And I took the brake off. That little 4-cylinder took off down the freeway. I got it back to the house where he wanted me to have it. Took it into the car wash and sprayed the shit out of the underside because it smelled like hot rubber. I pulled it in and we're sitting there and he gets in the car and he drives away and I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Nothing. I didn't hear from him for a couple weeks. I'm like, how's your truck? It's like, what do you mean? How's your truck? It's great. Oh, okay, cool. And he gave me the look. Ed? Yes. What did you do to my truck? Nothing. Ed? What did you do to my truck? I forgot that you put on the parking brake. Huh? I drove it halfway here, 30 miles on a freeway with the parking brake on. You did? What? I'll tell you what, that engine has some good torque to it, but we really beat the hell out of that Ranger. That was the same Ranger with the Bobcat.
oh, jeez.
That poor Ranger, whoever bought that thing used, I feel bad for him. That's the same guy that I told you burned out all the gears but reverse and had to drive in reverse
Oh,
to school
yeah.
in an Escort. That's the same guy. He was terrible with stick shifts.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Man, that's
after we get done reviewing these episodes, we should have a BS night where we just sit around and BS.
yeah.
I'm sure we all have some great fun stories to share.
Yeah.
Maybe
That-
I'll premiere that on my channel and don't you dare advertise it. There's nothing there. But maybe
You mean
damn you, Jay. I swear I knew as soon as I
you
said it.
talking about that? See?
Yes, I'm talking about that channel.
He's got hot buttons now.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. I love you, Jay.
Love you too, brother. That's why I want to push. I don't care if you don't have anything on there.
There'll be stuff coming soon. I just got to get it to where I like it, and I got to quit being so anal about it.
I was thinking about
I think I'm
unboxing.
gonna start with comic reviews, some horror comic reviews, and just see how that goes,
Yeah.
and then go from there. But I don't know about how much money it costs to invest in a good mic, and I have to set up something that looks like what you guys have, where it looks like I belong. Because right now I'm just using a fake background because I don't have anything. But I'll figure out something.
Dude, until I put this stuff up, when we moved here, this was just a blank wall.
Blank walls I have.
Trust me, the reason that this is different now is because I was going to put a shelf in here to put some of my figures, my statues on, but hadn't gotten around to putting the shelf up yet.
Yeah. Do you
A lot of
guys all
this was
have
an afterthought too? Like the wall looked a certain way, and then the closer it got to, oh, I think I'm going to go on. I was like, oh, you know what? I got more stuff that I can do. You know, go and find.
Do you guys both have the boom swivel mics? Is that what you guys have? Is that how much are those?
I think I got this whole set right here for less than $200, and that came with the microphone, the boom mic, and the cord.
If you guys don't mind, can you send me some links? Because I don't want to buy garbage, and I'm
Sure.
still learning about this. When it comes to computers, I can rock your world and do anything. But when it comes to audio visual stuff, I was the guy that had the blinking clock on the VCR until people were pissed off to the point where I had to change the thing. Because
Nope and Kyle are going to be your dudes for mics.
Yeah,
because
and
mine
probably
was just a lucky. I found it on clearance at Walmart. So
yeah, and Kyle's definitely going to be way more educated on that stuff than I have because he's been doing this for a while. I just very quick research on this stuff and button push, buy, 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 buy. So
Well, I do find doing this with you guys enjoyable and relaxing and fun.
yeah,
And if it's fun and it's relaxing and it's enjoyable, that's what I need. So I'm looking forward to getting it going and to the point where I can have some guests on and just have some fun.
yeah.
So kind of
That's
like what you're doing. And
that's
once
what I
again,
would
I
tell.
appreciate the invitation, brother.
Yeah, that's what I tell everybody about doing this, man. If it's not fun, don't do it. Like if at
Right.
any point you're doing this stuff and it's not fun for you, then don't do it if it feels like more work. It is a lot of work, but for me personally, it's fun work, man. I love editing stuff, and when I learn a new editing trick from somebody, I like to teach myself how to do it. And like again, once you're ready to start getting into all that stuff, and you want me to help you with that, totally gold, man. The one of the coolest things Filmora has is a voice enhancer. That's why on live videos I sound different than when I do in my recording videos because I recently found it in Filmora. That's why I don't have the clicking anymore in my videos because there's
Nice.
something about this mic that clicks when I would do recorded videos. I don't know what it is.
Huh. Some kind of feedback?
Probably it's just I can't figure out from where.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. So that's a good place to end it. We did move a little bit faster through this one, but not too much faster. Uh,
Well, when you consider we put a $1.45 on the first 2 episodes, we kind of flew past the last 6.
yeah, we did.
But
We
we hit
did.
all the key parts.
Oh yeah,
That way the people have some surprises when they watch it.
exactly. Like that's what I want to. That's why I was like, make two. If you haven't started watching it yet, I don't want to spoil you. But he said he was good with spoilers, but he hadn't watched any of it yet, so he can go into season one and be surprised.
Well, hopefully we inspired him to give it a try.
Oh yeah. Well, said I'm going to
Hail Hydra.
drop
Hail
everybody
Hydra.
out, and I'll see y'all in the back room for just a minute. I'm going to do my
Ooh.
closing part. So
He
here,
wants to.
whoop, yep, there we go. All right, everybody. I know these last 2 weeks have been kind of outside of what we normally do, but this show is honestly so good, and this also was I knew Ed would know more about this than me, so it was kind of like I'm gonna let Ed host because he could definitely follow or definitely plot it out better than I can. So this was kind of Ed hosting the show tonight, and I think he did a fantastic job. So, uh, as always, oh, real quick, I almost forgot. I don't have the link saved, but if you follow the experience tomorrow at 4 Eastern, 3 Central, Kyle's going to have a sales show. He just built the room the other day. I just forgot to grab the link, but again, if you're watching this on the rewind, go to the experience. That is my place of employment job. I love it. It's helped me out a whole lot doing stuff like this on the lives and things like that. But everyone, again, next week we're going to do something different. And then the following week we'll get to season 3. Hopefully, anybody watching on the rewind, if you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. If you've been watching Reacher, let me know your thoughts. If you've loved it, if you haven't liked it, all I ask is when people have these discussions, let's not attack each other in the comments over people's, opinions on things. Everybody has a right to their own opinion as long as you're not dogging other people. Have whatever opinion you want. But I like to talk about stuff that I like and folks around me like. So that's usually what these shows are going to be, is stuff that we like. I don't talk too much about stuff I don't like because there's plenty of other channels that do that. So I'm going to get out of here. I hope you all have a great rest of your night and your weekend, and hopefully I'll see you next week on The Experience, but I will definitely there we go. Let me try that again. See you here next Saturday, same time, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, for another Hydra Hangout. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will catch you next time. And now here's my awkward hanging in the air. Later.